Hi everyone. Well, welcome back for you, those of you that came for the mental health and are continuing supporting our online conferences. So welcome to our second online forum. I am thrilled to have you all join us today as we dive into sustainability, discussing tailored for yacht crew as professionals in the industry. This conference aims to provide essential education on sustainability, offer practical tips for crew to implement in their work, and guide those interested in actively shaping the future of our industry. As a quick overview of today's sessions, we will be talking about marine life protection and conservation with Matthew Zimmerman and Craig Norris, monitored by Norma Trees. And then sustainability fundamentals with Robert Van Tol and Tamara, Ellis. And then following up and ending today's session with implementing sustainable practices on board with Claire Fernandier SICARD and Aubrey Keith. If you have any questions, please submit them. Maria is also online and she's monitoring all our social media platforms. We will do our best to add your comments into the stream with while still allowing our speakers to share the insights they have prepared for you. So now let's start as we dive into marine life protection and conservation. You'll explore the critical state of marine ecosystems. This session will highlight how pollution, overfishing, and climate change disrupt ocean health. You'll also gain a deeper understanding of the profound impact of human activities on marine life and learn about ongoing conservation efforts to protect our oceans and our species.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Norma Trees, and I'm really thrilled to participate in this seminar. And I really want to, first of all, applaud Leah and Andrea for making the effort to put this together. I think it's utterly fantastic. I'm here representing the International Seakeepers Society. If you don't know us, we were founded 26 years ago in Monaco. We do ocean research, conservation, and education on all the oceans of the blue planet Earth. And we've done over 500 projects in the last 26 years. And of course, all the issues that affect marine life are of interest to us. I am joined here today by a great friend and someone who is incredibly knowledgeable about everything to do with the state of our oceans. And that is Matthew Zimmerman from FarSounders. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Norma. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your kind words, Norma. I'm not sure I can quite live up to that accolade, but I will certainly try.
Well, as you know, we have an extremely serious topic in front of us. And as seakeepers, we are very well aware, and it's on our radar, starting to look into it even more seriously as a primary focus is the serious problem of overfishing that we have all over the world, some areas more serious than others. But, you know, I'm a positive-minded person, so I'd like to lead with something positive, if we could, please. We were recently invited to do a board retreat in the beautiful area of Costa Rica called Golfito Bay. And that is called Golfo Dulce, which means sweet Gulf. And that is a unique ecosystem that is a combination of the salty water from the Pacific Ocean and the sweet water that comes down from the rivers and mountains of Costa Rica. And they mingle in this absolutely incredible, basically living science project of Golfito. And they've worked very closely with many different environmental groups and research groups, including the University of Costa Rica and the fantastic Tiburon Association that just gave us a presentation while we were there. And I'm very happy to report that through the efforts of tracking and providing safe havens, they have been able to incredibly successfully grow the population of wild dolphins. They have dancing dolphins there that spin, which is an amazing thing. And just recently, they've been seeing a big uptick in the amount of whales that are actually entering into this biosphere, where they are doing so much research about how we can help increase the populations of our marine life. So that's one positive example to put in the middle of what is a lot of much more difficult subjects. Matthew, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that it's really exciting to have a firsthand look at these types of environments, because it really drives home the value of the marine ecosystems and its role and its impact on all of us and our society. You mentioned whales, and whales are a topic that I am particularly fascinated with. You mentioned seakeepers formed, you said 26 years ago. Well, FarSounder celebrated 23 years earlier this year. And one of our initial motivations was, how do we help protect whales from being hit by ships and boats? Ship strike is one of the 2 leading causes of deaths for North Atlantic right whales, as well as most of the other great whales. And we really thought there must be a way to help vessels and ships and boats avoid hitting the whales if they could see them. And over the years, it's just been fascinating to get to work on this topic. And in the last year or so, I've had the chance to go on 3 separate expeditions into the North Atlantic, doing work with humpbacks. And it was absolutely amazing to be so close to these giant animals, watching what they're doing. So having these in-person, firsthand experiences, I think really helps drive the message home and brings the motivation for everybody working on these types of activities. So I'm really glad to hear that you had your board meeting in such a fantastic place.
Well, and to be able to hear those kinds of stories, because let's face it, we are here because we work in the yachting industry, which is an industry that thrives on positivity. But when we're talking about really serious subjects like preservation of marine life, we cannot pretend that everything is, all, bonbons and perfume.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of serious things. But Matthew, I neglected to introduce you properly, or ask you to introduce yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about what FarSounder does and how that gives you the opportunity to so closely observe marine life?
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Matthew Zimmerman. I am the CEO of FarSounder and one of its founders. And as I mentioned before, this year we celebrated 23 years since founding the company. And what we do is we make a 3D forward-looking sonar for navigation, so we can tell vessel operators what's in front of their boat or ship out to navigationally significant ranges. You can liken it to an underwater radar. So you have your cameras and your radars above the water. Forward-looking sonar is below the water. It's a real-time sensor, but we also build a map of everywhere you go, so that when you return to an area, you can see what you saw last time, as to help you plan your approach. And our newest functionality that we've released to our customers is to anonymously share that map across the fleet, get access to the aggregate map of all the other contributors, and even contribute anonymously onto Seabed 2030, which is a global effort to help map the world's oceans. Today we're talking about yachting. Our customers cover a wide range of different market sectors. And Norma, I first crossed paths with you. I don't remember when. It was probably a Monaco Yacht Show or some other event. And as I'm sure you know, we are partners with Seakeepers, and we just launched last month a new web dashboard for monitoring crowdsourced bathymetry contributions, because FarSounder customers are contributing, Seakeeper participants are contributing, and some of your colleagues at Seakeepers said you wanted to have an easy way for your contributors to see what they're doing. And we said, well, we have a lot of that tooling in-house. Let's put it together and build this dashboard. It's one way to help people contribute to these global efforts while doing the things that they're already normally doing. So it makes it easy to, small impact, but to still make an impact without even changing your everyday activities.
Well, what I find interesting about that, Matthew, is that in the maritime world, across, you know, its great diversity, one of the things that unites all of it, and I think are the tools that we're able to use. And when I speak to someone like yourself who is able to take your advanced knowledge of technology and apply that in a practical application that helps ship owners, yacht owners, captains, all the people in the great circle be able to understand where they are in that ecosystem of our oceans. I find that tremendously exciting. Maybe our participants don't know that much about Seabed 2030, and since you mentioned it, maybe we can talk a little bit about it. As seakeepers, we are very active members in the Seabed 2030, JEBCO Seabed 2030 project, which is, as Matthew said, a global project to track our ocean bottoms through gathering delivery of bathymetric data. And Seakeepers happens to be able to boast the largest fleet of vessels afloat that deploy the Seabed 2030 data loggers. There's a couple of different generations of those. And the Seabed 2030 project is something that illustrates the fact that global activities working together can be powerful. And I think we need to apply this back to what our topic is, which is marine life. But Seabed 2030's fascinating history is just worth thinking about a little bit. It was founded in 1913 by Prince Rainier I. He was known as the navigator prince because he traveled the oceans, and he himself was one of the very first environmentalists and people that paid attention to ocean science and sea conditions in the case of the Mediterranean Sea, where his principality was based. Fast forward 100 years later, it was decided by JEBCO to push it forward and see if they could take the relatively small amount of the percentage of ocean bottoms that had been tracked and see if we could increase it. At the time, at about 2015, we had only tracked about 7% of the ocean bottoms. Now, with the help of people like Matthew and FarSounder and all of his population, seakeepers, all kinds of fleets of commercial vessels around the world, cruise ships, people that are port-based. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the diversity and geographical reach of the vessels participating in Seabed 2030. Understand, this is completely volunteer from everyone. Crowdsourcing bathymetric data. It's another thing that's incredibly exciting. And now that I can report that we're up to about 27% of the ocean's bottoms tracked in less than 10 years by a concerted international group, gives me hope that when we pay attention to things like this, that we can really move the needle. What do you think, Matthew?
Well, I really love this initiative. So you mentioned a couple of different words, JEBCO, Seabed 2030. JEBCO was created by the Prince of Monaco as that comprehensive map of the world's oceans. To give some perspective, and this is a statistic that I blatantly took from the Seabed 2030 website, back in 2017, we had mapped 99% of the surface of Mars at 6-meter resolution. But today, the latest update is just over 75% of the world's oceans have been mapped. But that's only at 100-meter resolution. So that's 100-meter resolution is enough for a basic understanding, but it's not a navigation chart. And certainly there are places where there are higher resolution maps, but these tend to be typically in the main shipping and transit lanes, which is only comprising a small part of our oceans. There's a lot beyond that that are really not well known and not understood. And yachting can play a really unique role in helping to gain this better understanding of these areas, because when you think about a yacht's itinerary, yes, they need to get from one port to the other, but when the guests are on board, it's generally not a ferry. They're generally not shipping cargo. The guests want to go to that place over there that's off of the main transit lanes, that exclusive area where there's nobody else. They're the only people in that, that lagoon or off into that fjord or wherever they may be exploring and relaxing. these are not places where traditional hydrographic surveys typically go. And so our knowledge of these areas is small. So crowdsourcing, which is getting measurements from anyone in the public to record a time, a location, and a depth measurement is really valuable because there are lots of vessels in the yachting community going to these exclusive locations. And when we put that all together, the yachting, the cruise ships, the official hydrographic surveys, the commercial surveys, we've only gotten to about 76% of the world's oceans mapped. And we're only filling that in about 1% a year. So we have a long way to go. It's really exciting that crowdsourcing can be a role in getting this done.
I totally agree with you. And of course, we're all very concerned about the many different influences on the health of our oceans.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot help but recognize the rising ocean temperatures that we see everywhere. I think that there are areas certainly where overfishing continues to be an incredibly serious and dangerous activity. And Matthew, given your broad experience of helping vessels navigate safely all over the world, can you tell us a little bit about any knowledge that you have of how your data, does it form any of your clients' desires to navigate different places? Do they look at fishing in general, whether it's recreational? Do they talk to you about marine life populations and what it means to them?
Some of them do, very much so, in a lot of different aspects. You talked a little bit about fish populations globally, and we are extracting a lot from our oceans. And people that are involved in the industry know this, but people that are a little more removed may be surprised that when you have a commercial fishing vessel looking for a specific fish, there's some sort of quota, which is how much they're allowed to take of that target fish. But they collect a ton of other fish that they weren't targeting. And this is called bycatch.
Mm-hmm.
And in a few cases, some of that bycatch is collected and used commercially, but enormous amounts of this bycatch are just caught, killed, and dumped overboard. And some efforts that we've been working on with some research organizations is using sonar technology, not just to say, here's a fish, but here's this type of fish or that type of fish, with the goal of being able to better target the species of interest and reducing bycatch. There's a lot of questions about what the quotas should or shouldn't be. I think it should be based in science. There's a lot of politics involved in the policy and setting what these quotas are. But sidestepping the question of what should the quotas be or shouldn't be, if we can reduce the bycatch, that has a positive economic impact for the fishing organization because they've spent less time collecting fish they don't want, and they can focus on the fish they do want. It saves fuel for them because they can do this quicker. It is safer for the crew on board. Fishing is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And if you can reduce a 20-day trip to a 19-day trip, you just reduced it by 5%. That's 5% less time on the water, 5% less risk of having an accident. And clearly, if you are collecting less bycatch, taking less from the ocean, that has a positive environmental impact. So there's a lot of work that can be done, even keeping within the existing quotas, letting other people debate what the quotas should or shouldn't be. If we can reduce bycatch, that's a positive environmental, economic, and safety improvement. On the other hand, we've talked a little bit about whales. We have a lot of our users interested in whales. To date, we've been collecting depth measurements through crowdsourcing, like we talked about. In our upcoming software, we're going to be adding a whale observation button. So when our users observe a whale, they'll be able to push a button in our software, and pass that report onto our servers anonymously, and then we'll pass that on to the relevant endpoints, to the organizations that are mandated and charged with protecting and conserving these animals. While we're adding in that whale observation button, we're also going to be adding a floating trash observation button and pass those on to the relevant endpoints like IC, a great organization trying to map all of the floating trash around the world. Monitoring trash and monitoring whales has nothing to do with our charge of enabling vessels to navigate safely, but we think it's a no-brainer because our users' crew are out there. They're seeing these things. We have this network connection back to our cloud servers where we pass through anonymous data. So why not collect these things and pass them on to the relevant organizations that can actually do something with that information? So I think we have a lot of our users interested in these topics. And for them, many questions are, how do I help? And I'm just one person. Like, what can I do to make a difference? Well, if everybody did that one little simple thing, we'd be making huge strides towards improving all different environmental conditions.
Well, you know, Matthew, you have put this into an extremely interesting perspective, at least for me. While we are all interested, the whales are so incredibly inspirational, and I think that's fantastic that that's one way that you can make your customers really feel that they are part of the great totality of Mother Ocean. But to put it in a way that, at least in the case of the fishing fleet, I think the commercial viability and the increase in efficiency, safety, and reduction of costs would be enough to make any, certainly commercial fishing operation, you know, any kind of operation that is, you know, hitting a whale is not a small thing to your average vessel. It can do a huge amount of damage. That can also be extremely costly, not just to marine life. That part of it is obvious and completely tragic. But if you look at it from that prism that you brought in, which I think is, we would be preferred to be able to be people that could be pure and talk about conservation and talk about marine life in strictly positive ways. But I think we have to look at it in terms of the way that we can also encourage commercial activities to see the benefits of looking at the environment around them and working with it more efficiently. And so I applaud you for that. I think that is being very realistic. And I'm not a scientist, but I'm very interested to hear what everyone has to say about ocean science and marine conservation, and of course, specifically marine life conservation. But when you put it that way, Matthew, I think that is not only crowdsourcing, which is a fantastic international way to add your own influence into it, but if we can figure out ways through technology and information dissemination to help commercial operations and the great circle of maritime understand that it's also commercially viable to be more aware of marine life and be more aware of marine conservation in general. So thank you for that. That's a really fantastic observation.
Thank you. You know, I am also not a scientist. I'm an engineer, but I love being able to enable science with the technologies and products that I'm part of. And I think you hit the nail exactly on the head. There are few people that I've ever met who have said, I want to damage or harm the environment. But there's a lot of people that want to, but help it, but don't know how to, don't know how they can afford to, don't know how they can have an influence. And so if industries in general can look at what they're doing and see how can it be applied in a way that is cost effective, then when you have an economic incentive, and I'm not talking about taxes or government incentives, I'm talking about operational incentives. These are things that now enable for-profit organizations to justify doing the things that they want to do anyway. So today, our products allow vessels to operate more safely by avoiding rocks and causing oil spills, avoiding whales and causing ship strike injuries and deaths. We hope in the future we will have this bycatch identification functionality. And just to be clear, that's not a product of ours today, but a technology that we're working on. And like I said earlier, if we can get everybody thinking about why not, that won't solve every problem, but that will go a long way towards making an impact on many of the issues that are affecting all of us today. I see it looks like, Norma, did we lose you there? Hi, Rhea.
Hi. Yes, we did briefly lose Norma. I'm sure she is back right now. We do apologize for.
I'm so sorry. I had something else that came in that was absolutely urgent on a very similar topic, actually. So I do apologize. I was listening to you, though, Matthew. So tell us, can you give us any idea about worldwide marine life populations and how that's looking today? Is that something that you have a handle on through your technology?
Well, I wouldn't say I have a handle on that directly from our products technology, but being involved in this industry, I get a glimpse at a lot of different things going on. And there is a lot of talk about climate change, obviously, and it's not just climate change in our atmosphere, it's also climate change in the ocean. So ocean acidity changing, ocean temperatures changing. In some cases, that is harming things that can't move, like corals. In other cases, it's changing the locations of things that can move, like certain fish populations are moving from one geographic area to another geographic area. Going back to the whale example, menhaden that many whales eat have been moving closer and closer onshore in the northeast of the United States, which is bringing the whales closer to shore, which is bringing the whales into areas where there's a lot more vessel and boat traffic. So we need to be smart about how we handle vessel and whale interactions as our environment changes. There's been a lot of great work from a whole number of organizations, both in academia and in industry, looking at modeling how the environment in not just atmosphere, but in the oceans are changing. And that can be, how are the currents moving, which is important for energy distribution and driving atmospheric weather. But how are the currents moving nutrients, which is what the small fish eat, which the larger fish eat, and then the top level predators eat. So that's driving those larger fish school populations as well. It's a really complicated, multifaceted, multivariable environment and system that we're working at. So there's no one technology, no one product, no one data point that describes it all, but we really have to look at the whole thing holistically on a global scale.
Well, obviously. And, you know, I think we all feel that our oceans belong to all of us. And yet I think it can be very difficult to feel as individuals that we can help in a significant way. You know, I live in South Florida, and one of the things that we see that a couple of things that are extremely serious here. And you mentioned one of them that's near and dear to my heart, and an activity that Seakeepers participates in a great deal, which is the very sad and hideously impactful issue of coral reef bleaching. And, you know, we have participated, we do large projects in our great oceans. We do smaller projects closer to shore, many projects closer to shore. Actually, we've educated over 2,000 young children over our years. And one of the things that we do is collect corals that are still healthy and try to acclimate them to warmer temperatures and differing environments, Matthew. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. in an effort to make sure that we are able to keep those populations. As we know, many different kinds of marine populations have been decimated in recent decades, but corals don't move as fast as fish.
Yeah.
So those we can help. And of course, the other thing that is, you mentioned grasses in the Mediterranean. Posidonia grass has been the #1 issue in pushing the inability of vessels, for instance, to be able to drop their anchors wherever they want to. If there's grasses there that feed the fish populations, they're not allowed to. For us here in Florida, it's a different type of marine conservation. Mangrove growth is a huge issue, as it is basically worldwide. We heard a lot of talk about that in Costa Rica as well. And those are all different types of, conservation efforts that we can participate in. Again, I'm not quite sure that this is a topic that you or I are specialized in, Matthew. I think you've got more technical knowledge than I do. So, what's of interest to me is what we can do as associations, as groups, as interested people that have an interest and in a desire to positively affect the marine environment. I think that people that work and operate and play in the maritime environment have that responsibility, and also, as we've been discussing here, an increasing amount of capability. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, and I think there's two big roles that we really are obligated to, two big things that we're really obligated to work on as members of this community. One is bringing education of these issues and topics to the terrestrial populations here on Earth. So, we are so close to the water in the yachting industry, but there are so many people that I've met that have never been to the ocean, never seen the ocean. And it's hard for them to understand these issues when they have this lack of connection to that part of the environment. So I think everybody in the marine community can easily be an ambassador to help talk about and educate those that are unaware of marine topics. And the second big thing that needs to get done is more information and monitoring and study of the marine environment. It is a very harsh place to access. Very few people have been there. As I mentioned before, and you mentioned before, so little of our world's oceans have been mapped. 26% of the world's oceans have been mapped, approximately. I think I said 76 earlier. I meant 26. Sorry about that. And that's because it's so hard to get to these places. If you think about mapping the forest that is outside the city or the mountains, you can have an airplane fly over it. You have hikers. You can put trackers on animals. There's so many ways to monitor and map that. Very different when you're trying to do that underwater. So there's a real lack of information on which we can make good decisions, quantitative scientific decisions on how to moderate and mitigate the impacts that we have. So if there's a way to collect these measurements and observations, whether that's through formal scientific endeavors, which Seakeepers does a great job of helping to connect the scientists with vessel times, whether that is through crowdsourcing observations, depth, whales, whatever else it might be, whether it's through private expeditions. We see some fantastic work by Ocean Explorer and Rev Ocean really doing some amazing work, out on their own. That's great impact. Government projects helping to bring that science. The world's governments spend so much time and effort on terrestrial science and measurements and observations and analysis, and a fraction of that budget is spent on the oceans, yet our oceans cover a larger portion of the world than land does. So we need to start bringing some more focus over there. And I think it's the obligation of everybody in the marine community to highlight these two topics. And it's easy. just talk about that with your friends and colleagues, and it helps promote this discussion. I can't tell you what the answers are, but I can tell you that if we get more people involved in the discussion, we'll find a lot more of those answers.
Well, obviously, Matthew, you and I are singing from the same hymnal. I totally agree with you. I think there is a huge amount of power in working together. I do feel that the maritime community in general, and my little area of it, the yacht world, does have an opportunity to be impactful, if it's nothing else, as you said, of getting the information out there. I find, and I hope that everybody that's listening here agrees, that when you, as you said at the very beginning, nobody says, I want to turn out to be a polluter and I want to do damage to the marine life or Mother Ocean. No one would ever say that. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But if we can have these kinds of positive conversations, if we can educate people about the ways in which we can contribute to our own environment through actually getting out there and performing missions. And we've all seen that. As I said, Seakeepers has done over 500 missions, projects, scientific research activities in the last 26 years. That's pretty significant, using over 200 yachts. What you're doing is amazing. I love the fact that you can bring a statistical basis to this. Needless to say, Seabed 2030, you and I are both 100% convinced of the value of it. Not only is the data important, we spent a little bit of time talking earlier about, or at least mentioned in passing, the very scary fact of rising ocean temperatures. Bathymetric data can be incredibly important in figuring out how the very ocean bottoms actually make weather, especially ocean weather, become reality. So that kind of data is also huge. But the communication and what you said about the capability and importance of that, I think, is the most important takeaway. And I think something that people like you and I and Yachting International Radio can really work on.
Yeah, and it's not just impacting in the marine environment, it's also impacting the terrestrial environment. So as the...
I love that comment, terrestrial. Aren't we all in the same terrestrial?
Well, there's a lot more people on the coast than there are on the water. So these people need to get motivated as well. And so when temperatures rise, that changes where the energy moves in the ocean. As water levels rise, that change how the waters flow. And now we have storms, weather events, and the bathymetry of the sea floor is really important in understanding if there is a weather event in this location, how does the storm surge affect this coastal area? When we have a tsunami, or we have a cyclone, or we have a hurricane in different areas, where is the water going to go? How is that going to impact the populations and the infrastructure on shore? And not just the dock where these boats and ships dock up to, but everything else in this coastal environment. So it's not two separate problems. It's one giant problem all mixed together that we all need to be conscious of.
I totally agree with you. And living in Florida, I'm all too aware of that. And just like a lot of other people, I'm kind of addicted to weather. And so when we, in our small way, when we see tropical storms developing in the lower Caribbean and we watch it going up, we're extremely thankful when it passes us, but we're all too well aware of what it does many thousands of miles away. Having lived in the Med for many years, I can tell you that we feel, the impact of Western Atlantic storms there, and of course the growth of huge storms in the Med, which we were very, very sad to see the results of just recently with the sinking of a 57-meter Perini Navi. So anything that can increase our knowledge of weather, which increases our knowledge of the ability to track and maybe impact the health of marine life, which is our subject, is something that's really important. I see we have a chat here. What does this say? Oh, it's a private chat that says, sorry, I didn't mean to leave a message on private chat. So Ria, thank you. Ria or Andrea, as you are the ladies that have organized this and chosen the subjects, do you have any comments on the topics that Matthew and I have been discussing here?
Hi, everyone. So I added a comment from Patty Elkas there on screen for you guys. The International Seakeeper Society belongs to the Pink Flamingo Society, a private global ocean research group founded by Wendy Schmidt. It includes Rev Ocean, Ocean X,
Mbari.
to name a few. So just a comment from one of our one other people watching.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, you need an introduction to that, because that comment is by none other than the absolutely fantastic Patty Elkas. She is the vice chair of Seakeepers Society. So I serve on the board of directors with her. And that lady is absolutely incredible. She is a true leader in ocean science. As a volunteer, she has been on the board of directors of an incredible array of scientific research and academic organizations. And in fact, after the Monaco Yacht Show, Patty and our director of programming, Tony Gilbert, are going to be going to New York and representing seakeepers at the Pink Flamingo Society. I wish Patty was online that could give you a little bit of further depth of information. Pink Flamingo Society is one of the highest level global associations of eco-science and marine science warriors, of which Patty is a fantastic representative. I can tell you, if you're interested, since we can't hear Patty, I think the name of why Pink Flamingo Society, how Pink Flamingo Society got its name is very interesting. Would you like to hear that story?
I certainly would.
The utterly fantastic woman, her deepness, Dr. Sylvia Earle, one of the few people who has been to the deepest trenches of our oceans. And I wish Patty was here, but I don't know if she was at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, but somewhere down at the very bottom of our ocean, was devastated to find a plastic pink flamingo there. And so therefore, when this Global Science Association, unbelievably powerful, the groups it represents, including the Principality of Monaco and many, many others that Andrea listed. The name might sound frivolous, but what they do is incredibly serious. And the reason for that name is also, you know, in a reverse way, very serious. But Pink Flamingo Society, if they're not on your radar, take a look at them. What they do is great. And we're so thankful to have Patty to represent us there, and also Tony, you know, to kind of push the capabilities of seakeepers. And we believe strongly in global partnerships, and we like to see ourselves kind of at the center of helping these partnerships be healthy and powerful. So Patty, thank you so much for that comment. Did you know about Pink Flamingos, Matthew?
I know of the organization, but I have not had the fortune to be involved with them. Although some of our customers are members of that organization.
Well, Matthew, we just mentioned the Monaco Yacht Show. Of course, we'll be seeing you there. Seakeepers will be there in force. And while we're here with the public, I'd like to also invite you to once again join us this year at our scientific roundtable, which is going to be on Friday, September the 20th, lunch, and then a talk about ocean science and where we've come since we initiated the very first one of those activities last year. And I very much look forward to sharing with you and with the rest of our maritime communities, our yachting communities, the great activities and powerful capabilities that we have together. Andrea, what do you think about all of this?
Oh, wow. Not to be put on the spot like that. You definitely are the expert, but I am learning so much from you both. I am so excited. I also will be attending Monaco, so excited to dive deeper into these issues. I love that these boat shows are now sharing their stage with conferences, so it's easy for me to actually like pop in and get some knowledge of what these organizations are working so hard to push forward and change everything for the better. I was popping in for one last read of a comment from Chloe. She's been very active, leaving us comment, and she just wanted to give a shout out to Matthew, that she's been agreeing. I agree with Kay, and a great product, Matthew. So just a little shout out there, some love that we've been seeing on the chat.
Thank you, Chloe. I certainly appreciate that. Being an engineer at heart, what I am trying to do is lead my team to make things that are interesting to us that can have an impact and be valuable to our customers. Because we all have to pay our bills at the end of the day, but we want to do something that's interesting from the engineering point of view. And so we've really looked at what problems are out there that we can solve and how can we apply technology to them. And that makes my job really interesting because I get to talk to a lot of interesting people, go to a lot of interesting places, learn a little bit about a lot of different things. And I love getting to talk about those experiences here in forums like this one. So thank you for the compliment, Chloe. I appreciate it.
Well, we're getting comments from a lot of different areas, Andrea. I just received one on LinkedIn from Charles Barber. He's with an organization that's called Switzerland for the Oceans. I must admit, I'm not familiar with it, but that illustrates what Matthew was talking about, which is the link between the ocean-going population and what you call the terrestrial population. So I want to learn more about. Let's see. Boy, it's a big old post we've got here. I have to read this whole thing. But Switzerland of the Oceans, Andrea, I think you need to take a look at that. Charles, thank you so much for chiming in. And I think next time we do one of these, I think we need to make sure that we've got Charles, who is obviously interested and listening. We need to get his feedback on this because certainly looking just from the initial post that he made there, this is somebody that is just like us, Matthew, passionate about ocean conservation and the protection of marine life, even from the beautiful mountains of Switzerland. So thank you again, Charles. I'll be taking a deeper dive into Switzerland for the ocean. So thank you very much. Any more comments, Andrea? Did we lose
Sorry
her?
there. No, I'm there. Just pop out and pop back in. Just another shout out from Chloe saying, "Hi Andrea, my client Yacht Intelligence have used the projects over the years." Andrea, my client Yacht Intelligence have used. I'm assuming she meant use the products over the years, referring to Matthew's company. So that is.
Well, I have to say, I've always been, as you probably gathered from this conversation, and the reason why Matthew is invited here, let's face it, is because he is extremely knowledgeable about what he does. He's second generation running this business, does a fantastic job. It is absolutely fascinating. If you're ever at a yacht show, I know I'm going to be seeing Matthew soon in Cannes, seeing him at the Monaco Yacht Show directly afterwards, see him at FLIBS. And if you want to see a demonstration of something that really brings you in touch with the areas and the waters and the sea life and everything that we are all navigating through, take a look. His display and his passion, both of them are extremely impressive. And I always love talking to you, Matthew. And I know that we're coming to close to an end of our time that we're here. But again, I'd also like to give a big shout out to Leah in Palma de Mallorca, or Mallorca anyway. And Andrea, I think you're on the West Coast. So it's very interesting to see the geographical diversity of the people that are paying attention to this. Andrea, how many people have we had watching today?
I can answer that. Actually, I'm watching all of the platforms, which is why I'm kind of not part of it. There's so many platforms there's 4 different platforms that we're streaming on, and we have had over 150 tuning in at this stage. And as the day goes on, I'm sure that we'll have more. I just wanted to bring back about Switzerland for the Oceans. They did send me a message earlier. They are having their inaugural online meeting concerning important marine mammal areas on Tuesday, the 10th of September at 5 p.m. Central European time. And of course, one of our panelists, Robert, will be joining Switzerland for the Oceans in that chat. So if anybody is interested in finding out a little bit more about it and what they do and be part of that conversation, I think I did tag you, Matthew, because that is right up your alley.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that, Rhea. And Norma, thank you for your kind words about the work my team and I have been doing at FarSounder.
Well, I'm a fan. I calls them as I sees them, Matthew, as you know very well. But truly, so many of the messages that you have said, apart from the technology, I always love a good engineer. When I've worked on yachts, engineers were always my favorites. And what you do is truly a fantastic tool. But if we don't work together, if we don't communicate, if we don't join as associations, as businesses, as groups of associations, as scientific entities, as academic entities, and as the lovely ladies here have demonstrated, an international action can happen. I'm very impressed with the numbers. And, as we're closing here, I'd like to, again, thank Matthew from FarSounder for participating. Sorry we couldn't have Craig Norris join us today, but hopefully for the next time. And I'd like to thank everybody that has participated in this. I'm very, very impressed to see the numbers. Again, I love to see the geographical diversity of the listeners. And most of all, the fantastic Rhea at International Yachting Radio, and the lovely Andrea Tagliaferro, who is really making waves with online education. And I predict that she's going to be doing even greater things very soon. So thank you so much for inviting me to participate. And I look forward to joining more and more of your sessions in the next 2 days.
Well, thank you both. This session has been amazing. I learned a lot. I actually can't wait to watch the replay. This will be on demand later because, as Rhea mentioned, we're behind the scenes trying to make sure that everything continues to run smoothly. So we may have missed one or two of your comments and insightful information. So thank you again for joining us. For the viewers right now, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we'll come back with your next session. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
You. Take care.
I appreciate your time.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone had a second moment to go stretch their legs. Right now, we're continuing with sustainability fundamentals. In this session, we'll explore the fundamental principles of sustainability, a session tailored specifically for yacht crews. This educational session will provide a thorough understanding of sustainable practices and their importance in the yachting industry. Please stay tuned and help me welcome Robert, Tamara, and Janet.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Great. So welcome to everybody for this new session on sustainability fundamentals. And I think it's a pleasure for all of us to be here today. And Andrea, Rea, I think it's a great job you're doing, great opportunity, great speakers, passionate people. So definitely, I think that this is all we need for this great and an essential topic. So I think that before we start, we'll all agree that in the world of luxury and performance, the super yacht industry faces a unique challenge, which is how to balance its reputation with luxury and opulence, with a growing imperative for environmental responsibility. As the industry evolves, sustainability has become not just an option, but I think we will all agree a necessity, and prompting stakeholders to rethink traditional practices. So today we are delighted to have with us Tamara, Ellis, and Rob Van Tol as guest speakers with us. Tamara is the sustainability lead at Rev Ocean, and she will explaining later on actually what her role actually entails. Robert is executive director and co-founder of the Water Revolution Foundation. They are both pivotal figures in advancing sustainability within the super yacht industry. They lead initiatives to promote eco-friendly practices and technologies, to establish rigorous industry standards, and support ocean conservation. So through our discussions today with Tamara and Rob, we'll examine today how the super yacht industry can align itself with the principle of sustainability, encompassing environmental, economic, and also social dimension. We will see that these are the three pillars of sustainability. We will also explore the practical steps, innovative technologies, and policy initiatives essential for steering the industry towards a more sustainable future. So let's start without further ado. And I think that it's important to define first what is sustainability. So maybe Rob, how would you describe actually sustainability in the super yacht industry, considering both environmental and economical aspects?
Thanks, Janet. Pleasure to be on the show. Thank you also to Yachting International Radio and to Tamara to be together on this panel. Thank you for this very important question, because it really starts with the correct understanding and adoption of the sustainability concept. You already mentioned economic, environmental, but also social aspects that all need to be in balance for something to be sustainable, and as such to be fit for the future, I would say. Just in simple words, to be able to continue doing things, business practices, for instance, or leisure marine activity for the time to come, for the generations to come, to find the balance between economic gain, social advancing, but also, of course, the environmental impact.
Yeah, I think balance is definitely a key word there. Tamara, can you add maybe something on why this holistic approach is essential, and also to have the social and human element?
Yes, thank you. I just also wanted to say thanks very much. It's really great to be part of this initiative. I'm very excited to be here. I think the social element sometimes still gets left out of sustainability when it's being looked at, and it's a vital component. We can't achieve environmental sustainability, we can't achieve economic sustainability if we're leaving the social element out. So in the way to go forward, it really is the intersection of these three pillars. Sometimes there's the fourth one, human, which is also put in there. And I think that's also worth a consideration. And I think within the super yacht industry, it's very important to understand that we do have impacts, direct and indirect, both environmental and social.
Yeah. Thanks, Tamara. So now that, let's say, we have briefly reminded the audience the definition, what is sustainability, and actually the three pillars of sustainability, let's explore more the environmental impact of yacht operations and discuss the best practices for managing resources such as water, energy, waste, and how to minimize our footprint on marine ecosystems. Robert, maybe a question for you, which is how do yacht operations affect actually the marine ecosystems and global resources, and why is it crucial for crew to understand actually this impact?
Well, thanks, Janet. It is evident that there is a tremendous impact that yachting has on the natural environment that it is in. That can be made relative by comparing it to shipping or to other industries, which is sometimes done when people give presentations or when numbers are being mentioned. We try to refrain from that because it doesn't need a context. It needs actually isolation. You need to look at the impact from this activity that actually is colliding with the very purpose of it. So the yachting lifestyle is to take a luxurious lifestyle, but on the water, and enjoy everything that marine life and the oceans have to offer. If that comes at the cost of it, something is off. So we have been moving throughout the decades of this industry. It's a relatively young industry. 2/3 of the fleet has been built in the last 20 years. So there has been a tremendous growth in this industry for people taking their holidays and leisure to the water. And that comes at a cost, and that comes at environmental impact, both direct and indirect. Direct from the anti-fouling products, from noise and vibrations, not only from the motherships, but also from the toys. There are indirect emissions that are locally produced, locally affecting the water and air. And there are indirect pollutions. Again, emissions, but for example, also production, transportation, waste from consumables, everything around the operations of yachts. And of course, highlighting these elements comes as a confrontation sometimes to the industry, but there are also a lot of solutions, a lot of choice. It's just about making conscious choice. And we try to emphasize that there's always room for less. So less of the same things before you even need to make any changes. So it doesn't compromise comfort or a luxury feeling or the experience. It may actually contribute to this experience, but probably we'll touch upon that a little later. So I just wanted to emphasize that yes, we need to isolate this impact coming from operations, but especially focus on the solutions because they are there.
Can you maybe list, Tamara or Rob, can you maybe list some of the solutions that are out there existing already and which can be implemented actually easily?
Yes, I can start with that one. I think it's how we address things to begin with. So I think when we're looking for solutions, it's not always something that we need to do as a last minute attachment. It's something we need to consider at the beginning of the process. It's at the point of contact, I suppose. So we need to really bring sustainability thinking into everything that we're doing. It needs to be a bottom line. It needs to not be an after consideration. So I know a very simple example to use is we know washing machines release microplastics, and we can add a filter to a washing machine, which is a solution we can do to reduce microplastics. But we can also change the way we operate. We can also change our maintenance and our management of materials on board. And then we can go further than that, and we can look back to the beginning of that process, and we can start to consider things like, what materials are we bringing on board, and can we reduce the plastic within those fabrics and those materials? And in doing that, we're already addressing the problem before it's become a problem, and we're supporting an industry. I mean, the clothing industry is actually increasing its polyester use at the moment, incredibly increasing its polyester use. So we can be part of a change with that, and I think things like that become very important within the industry, but also beyond the industry as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If I may add to that, I think elements of operations can sound very, very simple or minor, but if you count them up and times the size of the fleet, these are tremendous changes that can be made on a daily basis. And I agree 100% with Tamara. It's not a sort of afterthought or see how we can do things a little bit better. No, if you start embracing this approach and you really sort of sign up to the commitment, you can do a lot. And we have been creating, for instance, environmental crew guidelines with crew to share best practices, to start sharing what is being done on board that is better for the environment than practices of, I would say, the past, but are currently still happening. So just to inspire each other and utilize this tremendous community of crew that has great experience, very practically oriented, of course, limited by time, pressured from the owners community. So there are great ideas, and these deserve to be shared. As Tamara said, from filters for washing machines to more environmental and coral sensitive sun creams, sorry, and etc., etc. Plastic provisions is something that you already can address with the supplier before it even comes on board, or you reject all the packaging materials that comes with it because you bring that to your next destination. And if that is a very remote area that typically gets visited by yachts, you immediately create a burden if you put all your garbage basically on their island, for instance. You create immediately an impact there and cause them to have to deal with your waste. So it can all be prevented.
I think there's two really interesting things that you brought up there, Robert, as well. I think actually working with suppliers and really going down the line of rejecting packaging and rejecting things, like pushing for change at that level so that we're not carrying that waste with us and we're not becoming, we're part of the change and the positive change of these things, I think is really good. And the other thing you said that I think is really, really important is the sharing. And yachting is traditionally a very, very confidential industry. And when it comes to sustainability, the best we can do is to really share that information. And the crew guidelines is a great example of that, where actually there are people that it's just a lot of people are doing this in silos, and sustainability can be extremely overwhelming. It's very time consuming to do the research. And if you can suddenly have this open discussion about it and we can all benefit from it and we can really take that and transfer it across the industry and hopefully beyond the industry as well, then we start to see some really amazing net gains from what we can achieve as a group of people.
Yeah, thanks, Tamara. It was really great received by the industry, actually better than we expected. Especially management companies, for instance, of course, serving their fleets. They were so happy that we made these available just for free and open source, because, as you said, it would take them a lot of time, effort, and perhaps they wouldn't have the knowledge necessarily in-house to start this. So that was the great reaction that we got. So many jumped on board right away to support it and send it to their fleet and crews right away. So happy with that action and movement, actually.
Yeah, I think that communication is really key, and sharing also the best practices and all we can learn, basically. So develop workshops, conferences, forum as this one, guidelines, I think is essential. And regarding the operations, we will have the next sessions, which will really delve actually into all the little steps and actions that can be taken to enhance actually sustainability on board and to reduce the impact. But like to summarize, I think that definitely what you say, it's really a holistic approach. It's not just on the constructions, on the refit, but on all actually the chain actually of the yachting, from construction up to operations. So like we've got solutions like energy efficient system, waste management, very important, to innovative management practices, using renewable energies like solar panels, wind actually energy as well, use eco-friendly materials in the constructions and the maintenance, water weight management, so desalinations, for instance, system, and avoid water pollution, or abolish as well is very important, the use of single plastic user on board as well. So we see that it's really like a holistic actually approach from construction to operations. We spoke about the guidelines. Can you share maybe some other example of technical innovations that have made a big difference in sustainability?
Tamara?
Sure. Well, as you know, I work for Rev Ocean, so I suppose one that I would like to draw attention to is the fact that one area that technology is rapidly changing and becoming a lot more accessible is actually in science. And there is there's a way for yacht crew to include a very positive impact and to become involved with smaller, smarter, and more easily deployed science equipment. So yachts are already doing this, some of them, but I think there's a great opportunity to link up science with yachts. There are obviously, I know there's another session coming up where seakeepers are involved, and there's also Yachts for Science and things like this. There's also citizen science programs away from the technology side of stuff. But just purely on the technology side of stuff, it's becoming more possible to actually work with scientists, work with local researchers, and to start using yachts as a platform to collect data that goes towards conservation. And this is quite different. We often talk about sustainability very much from a reductions perspective, which is completely what we need to be doing. But I think there is also an element where we can start to really, really push that kind of conservation element as well. So yeah, obviously that's Rev Ocean being my current role is, I think this is amazing, and I'd really like to see more yachts interested in it and seeing where they can dive in and kind of be involved in this side of things.
100% agree, Tamara. What we have been advocating since recently is a 3R model, and that's reduce. So I already mentioned it, less of the existing choices, which is a lot you can reduce. So yachting has never been about efficiency. Yeah. That's a sad thing, but it's also a good thing because there is a lot of room for improvement. So energy consumption has been really high, and there are solutions both technically and in behavior that can really reduce the energy consumption. And that's something we need to focus on before we look into the remove actions, because if you, for instance, swap your diesel as an energy source, for instance, for biodiesel like HVO, it's not, of course, the idea to just switch source to use then a lot of that scarce material. So reduce is always the number one priority. But then if you indeed look into alternatives, then HVO biodiesel can be really significant reduction directly of emissions. And that's something that we have been researching and advocating, but there's very little uptake from what we see. There's all kind of perceived risks among the operators, and we really want to learn where this is coming from. So what are the barriers for bunkering HVO? Sure, it can be availability, might be price, but I think those are to overcome. And if we are able to offer HVO more strategically, or even manage to bring down the price, there are still barriers for bunkering and switching to HVO. And we would really like to learn from the operators why that is. What is the perceived risk to do that? Because it's such an obvious actually action that reduces up to 90% of CO2 emissions directly. And that's, for us, it's a no-brainer, but it should be a no-brainer for yachting. And then the third R, and that's to Tamara's point, repair. We really need to start participating in the ecosystem restoration activities to make sure we have a healthy ocean to enjoy, both for yachting and humanity on this planet, to actually engage in that and play our role. And although yachting might be relatively small, or budget might be relatively limited, you can really have a positive impact. And even that positive impact can be quantified. So you can even compare negative footprint with a positive impact investment. And if you will, you can balance that or even go further and show that you are positively contributing to the marine life and our oceans. And that's something that we try to advocate as this is part of the yachting package on 2024. There's no one-way relationship anymore with to go yachting and use the oceans, but not to give anything back.
I think that this is a tendency of it. I mean, apart, yes, of course, operations, which is the easiest way, but I think that more and more people trying to think, or at least promote actually the refit side, which will be probably much easier than that, rather than starting from scratch in terms of the investment as well, which is implied. And as far as your remark, why people are not embracing it, the thing is that probably because when something is new, the normal reaction is to reject. When you don't understand, it demands actually too much effort, plus the fact that the investment cost, transportation barriers, production, and bunkering facilities. So I think that slowly we're getting there, but it will take a bit of time. But I think that we start to see actually some projects that start to use actually mix energy systems or new kind of hydrogens. I think there are two yachts at the moment that are working on this type of boats as well. So yeah, I think that slowly we'll get there, but definitely push the refit side is definitely something to watch. And maybe as well something which, as far as technology is concerned, AI probably will also play a big role with helping like route optimization, for instance, or reduce consumption, or smart energy systems on board. So I think that in terms of technology, this will help as well actually to develop the sustainability practices on board. I don't know what's your view on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, optimized systems is what I just mentioned is a big opportunity there. Not only with new builds, there are also the existing fleet, of course. So there are 5,800 yachts, according to Super Yacht Times, over 30 meters. It's a tremendous fleet, and these yachts are not likely to disappear or be scrapped at some point. So they continue to be in the fleet, which continues to be the responsibility of the industry. So, for instance, at our IMO level, they look at the impact of the entire fleet. So we're still collectively responsible for this. Not only, the shipyards that once built it, or now the operators or owners. This is a collective responsibility. And therefore, we need to look for solutions both for new build, of course, not leaving any opportunity underutilized there, but also look at the existing fleet and how can we upgrade them. And as I said, there's room for improvement. So we should definitely go for refit as an existing mechanism of upgrading yachts, and make environmental upgrades part of that.
And what is the reaction you get from owners?
Mixed. Some.
The difference between the old generation and the new generation, or not?
No, I wouldn't call it a generation thing. Of course, I can't look in the heads or in the family influences, but there's definitely no generation thing, to my opinion. But there's just like in society, it's a representation of society. There's the ones that are really concerned, and they are urging their teams to look into solutions or alternatives, or beside, not because we talk about owners, there I think also are a lot of potential owners that might not join yachting for those reasons. They don't see enough solutions, they feel too impactful, and we don't make it probably accessible enough to reinvent yachting, let's put it this way. So we have potential owners and existing owners, and there's the 25% that doesn't care, the 20 to 75% that if it's possible and affordable, then happy to do so, and there's the last 25% that really wants to push things forward and actually pay for innovations that then are being able to share it in the industry. There's a great example by Project Zero. This is a yacht in build so that this is not just a concept. It's inbuilt at Vitter shipyard in the Netherlands. Freepak and Dijkstra are involved, and the owner wanted to be open source. So all the research that has been done is being made available through Foundation Zero. And it's a sailing yacht, so it can do hydro generation, so it generates energy while sailing. That's being stored in batteries. Solar energy is being harvested. Even heat is being stored in salt batteries. So there are a lot of innovations there. Of course, for a sailing yacht, also counting on a lot frequent operations to actually fuel and fill the batteries. But there is no fossil energy on board, no fossil fuels, no combustion engines. Yeah, this is a great example. It's just one, so it's still the exception, not the rule. But let's try and push with everyone, all the influencers we have in our industry, to make this kind of innovative projects the rule rather than the exception.
I think that's a really good point, and I think there are people that are coming, into this as owners that do want to push that, and they are, and the nice thing about that is it's private funding. We're seeing, projects happen quite quickly in that sense. But then on the other hand, there's a responsibility for the industry to also start putting that agenda forward and to really start offering that and to suggesting and really, because a lot of the things as well, once there's a momentum to it, there will be actually potentially cost benefits attached to these things. There will be, as soon as the infrastructure catches up with it, we are looking at a lot of potential benefits for the people that own these vessels in the long run as well. And so I think it's really bringing that into the discussions that we're having with owners and with potential charter guests as well, and to really kind of champion that within the industry.
And legislators are also not sitting still, and of course that's maritime legislation, so not necessarily applicable to yachts always, both from the threshold point of view or the applicability. But we need to stay ahead of that. Also, just because we can. I mean, this is yachting. Everything is possible. So why is this then all of a sudden difficult?
Until we have the regulation, because maybe this is what people are waiting. This is human as well, to wait till the very last minute. And at the end it's worse, because the regulator don't really understand what they're regulating about, and then it's counterproductive. So maybe there's a way actually to be proactive and not reactive. And speaking about policy and regulation, can maybe one of you, maybe Robert, just enumerate the major, let's say, regulations that regarding waste management, water conservation, and emissions? Maybe what are the main regulations applicable today?
To my knowledge, there are not many. You have, let's say, legislations that you need to track your energy consumption, or let's say your fuel consumption, but you need to track it. But subsequently, there's nothing really being done with that data unless you have a very proactive management company that collects that and do something with that. But let's say that the generic environmental legislation from the IMO applies, then Europe tends to be a little bit more, let's say, advanced. So there are legislations under development there, but we see primarily local legislations being advanced quickest and most, let's say, impactful. So we have, of course, anchoring restrictions in south of France as a good example of local legislations that does affect yachting. It's a behavioral element, not necessarily construction related, but it is a good example. You have the areas where you need to use the SCR systems on the engine, so the emission or engine exhaust after treatment systems. Those areas are, of course, expanding. That's then again an international maritime organization legislation. Good example are the fjords in Norway, where you are not allowed to use combustion engines. So those kind of examples are just a growing list. And fair enough. I mean, that we are trying to enjoy and enter these kind of remote areas and enjoy the beauty of nature there. But yeah, if we come and pollute, then that can't be the right approach.
I think,
yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it's really interesting that we're seeing in this landscape, we're seeing an increase in expedition yachts, for example, and people wanting to go further afield and wanting to go into these environments. And at the same time, that is coupled with this like rapid kind of increase of regulation in these areas that's really going to force a change anyway, I think. And we either jump on board early, as you say, or, you know, it becomes a retrofit and yachting gets left behind. So yeah, it makes sense to move forward with it in good time. And I mean, there's enough out there now in terms of regulation, I think, to really suggest that it's only a matter of time until it catches up with where you're going.
Definitely.
Most rules are for 5,000 GT and up. There are not many yachts above 5,000 GT, maybe Rev Ocean. But yeah, that threshold will come down. That's very likely, and probably also should come down to keep the pressure on. But again, then you want to already be ahead of the curve, and you want to have something in place that, as you said, Janet, fits yachting characteristics. Because we have been, for instance, developing the Yacht Environmental Transparency Index.
This was my next question. So go ahead.
So
how with the Water Revolution Foundation, you are being proactive?
Yeah, we try to be, but of course we rely on the industry participation to speed up. But this is a great joint industry project example. 18 participating companies, most of them are well-known shipyards, design studios, and 3 research institutes. We said, okay, how do we assess and compare yachts on their environmental credentials? So what do we need to do to reflect that yacht-specific character? Because such an assessment is already offered by IMO. It's called EEDI, Energy Efficiency Design Index. But that counts on ships being in operation 90% of the time, because that's how they make money. Yachts are 10% of the time underway and 90% stationary. So that's complete opposite of how commercial ships are operating. Then it's a logical focus of IMO to be focused on propulsion energy and not so much on hotel energy. And yachts is again the opposite. Not necessarily the opposite. Propulsion is more or less 50%, but hotel function at least 50% as well. And that's something that is overlooked in IMO. Regardless of IMO, that's something that we can tackle, even with existing yachts, because of course changing the propulsion package is quite impactful, but all energy consumers in the hotel function and maybe the generation of energy on board is something that we really can improve upon. And Yeti is meant to understand what is my current performance of the systems. So it's not looking at owners, it's looking at the system of the yachts and see what is the upward potential and how do they function on this average operational profile that we found of 10% cruising, 30% anchor, and more than 50% of the time in the marina. So that's an example of proactive rather than waiting to be regulated. And whether this then is going to be offered in IMO, that's in the end up to the industry. This was a very important, is still a joint industry project. Currently focuses on the operations of yachts, but now we're going to move into build materials, maybe even build facilities, just to take into account that entire life cycle of yachts where we need to reflect on.
No, thanks for your very, very interesting. And
can I just add to that as well? I think it's important
maybe
that we do have
a question, which is probably linked actually to Rob just what mentioned. How are super yachts currently tracking their consumption? Is there a universal approach? Is it analog or digital in nature? From School Marine.
There is the SEEMP. Not sure what the abbreviation exactly stands for, but it's at least energy management protocol, I believe. So it's tracking fuel consumption, and that's it. Other than that, there are probably some volunteers that track their data either on behalf of the owner or management companies that have something in place, but mostly it's voluntary. There's no, to my knowledge, no mandatory system to monitor, which is also resulting in the lack of this data. We basically don't know. Manufacturers of yachts don't even know how their fleet actually behaves because there are not many sensors or these tracking devices are built in. So, and now it's coming because now they want to learn more and more how their fleet is actually operating to improve their current models. But surprisingly, it hasn't been done in the past. And now we have a sort of data gap, which we try to fill in. For this operational profile, we used AIS. So 103 yachts accumulated to 297 years of AIS data, which is not bad, but it's of course only a sample of 103 yachts. And AIS is not perfect, let's put it that way.
Tamara, were you going to add something?
Yes, I was just going to say, I think it's really important that as an industry that we do, like Yeti, come up with something that is very much fit for purpose, because otherwise we're going to have these other systems applied to us at some point, and that's going to be quite problematic. And then I just wanted to also comment then on the SEM plans. So they're standardized, but they're not really part of any audit system. So they're not standardized. They're mandatory. They're not standardized. It would be good if they were standardized, because at the moment ships write their own ones, but they're not part of any audit system. So it would be good to see that ships over 5,000 gross ton are required to share a methodology and collect data now. And this does affect a few of the bigger yachts. And then there's a third component to that, which is the calculation of the carbon intensity of vessels. But again, it's not applied enough across the industry yet.
Moving to conservation efforts, what are some key conservation projects you support or have supported and that have made a difference?
Tamara?
Well, Rev Ocean is fundamentally about ocean research and conservation. And currently, we are still waiting for the ship to finish its build. So for those that don't know, Rev is due to launch in 2026. But we are currently working on the itinerary for that maiden voyage and looking at who we'll be partnering with during that time period and going forward as well. But the idea being that Rev will offer a platform and open that up for use by scientists and researchers and artists and policymakers. And so I think it's really the whole concept of Rev is really to support conservation. In the meantime, we are involved in a number of projects as well, including we've got a couple of we have a sub and an ROV currently that are in operation and have been used. And one of the interesting projects that the sub was involved in was in the Chagos Islands and around that, the Chagos Marine Park. And it did basically it went down and it carried out some deep sea exploration in this area. And then that information was then used to share with the local area, and that then goes into informing the management of that area. So, I mean, the very positive ways I think that Rev Ocean is being involved currently, and what we're doing, what we can do without a ship, knowing that we're waiting for the ship to be complete and launched.
That sounds super exciting, and definitely brings us to the social human element and to the engagement of communities, which is vital as well, actually, when we discuss about sustainability.
I think Rev is an absolute fantastic project, and right from the start and with the purpose of it. The thing is, not everybody is of that extreme approach. So there's a lot of yacht owners, a lot of yachting community members that want to contribute to ocean conservation, ocean health, but not necessarily know how or how much or what to do, maybe non-financially also offering time. So we've been working on a program called Ocean Assist, and that's really to help the yachting community to make a positive impact and to make a right positive impact. So how do you know which project is the most effective to support? Well, that's a question for experienced marine scientists. So we have been working with a scientific advisory board that selects projects for us to advocate to yachting, and then to collect the funding, pass it on to this project, and make the next program possible. The current one that we are promoting is important marine mammal areas. It was mentioned in the previous session, actually, with Matthew and Norma, by Charles Barber from Switzerland for the Oceans. We just teamed up to promote the Northwest Atlantic project. We're currently fundraising for that. What it does is it brings together the scientists with data on that area. So entire east coast of the US, Bahamas, Caribbean, and even the Gulf of Mexico. Because there is also a lot of data already available. It's not always that there is data missing. There is also a lot of data, but that needs to be mobilized, brought together, analyzed, tested with criteria. So nominated areas for protection can actually be validated. And that's the program we have been supporting. The Northeast Atlantic has been finished. It resulted in 36 new areas that are important to marine mammals, which means they actually breed, feed, or sleep there, which means this is an area to take into consideration. It's not banned from human activity necessarily. It's just to make policies, for instance, wind parks, but also operations of ships, to just make more informed, conscious decisions, and when needed, adjust plans or adjust routes or speed or behavior, anything of that above, to just be in line with what nature needs. We are coming in their environment as humans, so we need to adapt, and then we can exist very well hand in hand. And that's something that we have been advocating. So on the 10th of September, we have a first webinar on IMAs for more information, of course, and support.
So we are all welcome.
Everyone is welcome, and we take a very insightful approach. So it's not just a plain fundraiser. It's really to explain why is this important and what can yachting do to support, because it's not only financially supporting these maps. If we manage to get them on the bridges of yachts, we can actually lead by example by adapting our behavior, our routing, our speeds, our toys or not, to the needs of these animals, because they have tremendous positive impact on the absorption of CO2, for instance. So whales, I'm sure everybody has seen the film of David Attenborough, where he explains that whales are boosting the existence of phytoplankton, and phytoplankton absorbs CO2 and releases oxygen. So that's a nature-based solution by just supporting these marine mammals.
Do you have companies that have already, or owners that have already confirmed actually the participation to this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. That's something that we're growing, and we're also working now on a model of rewarding that kind of support. So it's being quantified in positive blue carbon effect. So you can actually certify that and claim it as such.
Which will be good for the image problem actually the yachting industry is facing as well.
It could be a side effect. I don't know if that's, let's say, a remedy for the reputation, but definitely it's something that
we should be communicating more, I think, on this kind of projects.
Yeah, and I think then the reliability of the project and the quantifiable effects that justify this support is then very important for transparency.
So definitely there are plenty of opportunities, plenty of advantages, but yeah, so just towards the end, what are the main challenges you think that we have to face actually, and what are the few steps actually that can easily be taken actually to go to move towards actually this path of sustainability and yachting?
Well, number one, in my view, is education. There is just a huge knowledge gap, and I had the same. I mean, what I've learned since the inception of Water Revolution 5 years ago is a tremendous steep learning curve, and then still, and we try to bring those learnings across to the industry, but it's sometimes very difficult to get the right attention, to get the right target audience, because we have a great following, but those are probably the ones that are already convinced and supporting. So it's the other group that we need to get in front of. And the risk of a lack of knowledge is that issues or potential risks are being downplayed. And that's the worst we can do, is just to keep addressing things as sustainability is sort of feature that we need to take. It can be a cool business model. No, it's fundamental. And it's also not a competitive advantage. This is something that we need to do all together and a collective responsibility. And it needs a coordinated approach. In the previous session, Norma said, nobody disagrees that we want healthy oceans. No, so the goal is clear, but how to get there and to really commit on this road is something else. And that is the challenge for an industry relatively small, but quite segregated.
Maybe it would be important as well to demonstrate the long-term benefit also on the economical side, actually, to convince the ones which are perhaps not fully convinced yet as well, because it has a higher cost as well. So I think it's a question of balance, but maybe also demonstrate that on the long term, actually, some decision, even if it's a high investment, could, have.
I'd like to correct that a little bit, or put that in a nuance. There are systems that are more expensive, but I think if you, during operations, save energy, therefore you save money and of course emissions, but you talk about cost. We just need to look at things differently. If you look at it from a one-off cost, it might be higher for new build or maybe refit. But if you don't take into considerations those operational gains, you look at a price increase. But as said, you then also need to take into consideration the full cycle of earning that investment back. Plus, maybe if your rating of your yacht improves, then you have a higher resale value, or you have other benefits that you tap into in terms of either pricing or avoidance of taxes that might come into play at some point. So there.
Another advantage as well, I would say probably it will be easier to find an insurance as well, and maybe to finance your yacht in the near future, because we'll see that this starts to have an impact as well.
Absolutely, I can tell that from first hand. There is an investment bank that is already using Yachting to understand the, let's say, environmental credentials of projects that they are about to finance, and then either decide to finance or not, or indeed decide on the premium. So there is force from those kind of corporate players in the industry that will apply and at some point influence the financial the finance availability. Insurance might also follow that same path. Maybe marinas want to know the environmental credentials, whether a yacht should be welcomed in their community, just to have the justification to the local community there as well. Not unthinkable.
I also think from a crew perspective, one of the challenges can be meeting expectations and of owners and charterers, and that can be really challenging. That can be challenging in lots of things. For example, even just moving a yacht from A to B, and if you want to hit the optimal speed for fuel efficiency, that might not be possible if you've got people that are pushing to get there a little bit sooner. So, and how we kind of navigate that and how we can have a voice in that discussion, and we can really push sustainability forward in these areas, I think is going to be quite challenging going forward still for a while. And then I also think another area that's really challenging from the operational side of things is, and we've touched on it a few times, is time. Crew are often very time poor. And so sustainability can be seen as an arduous task as opposed to something that needs to be implemented. And I think it's really important that we start to make it very accessible and to really kind of push that idea that we can do small adjustments and to get help like the crew guidelines and things like that, really to have a bit more structure in there that supports crew in their move towards more sustainable practices.
What's very important as well is that every little step counts. It's not that we need to do major changes, but even the small, adding all the small little things that you can change has a huge impact already. And this is something that we need to understand, that it's not just for the others. Everybody actually can have a role to play. Actually,
has a role to play. Absolutely. Yeah.
Future trends. Anything to add about the trends that shaping the future on the topic?
I was just elaborating on what Tamara just said about charter. We were at the MIBA charter show in Genoa, and we understood from some of the yachts that they do get inquiries on, okay, what is the environmental footprint of 1 week charter, and how does this compare your yacht to the one next door? So there are inquiries and then not very, let's say, complete answers to those questions. And that's something that, that probably will grow. And plus you will perhaps see more profitable charter yachts that have better environmental credentials and can also be transparent on how they are, whether it's from a system point of view and also the crew operations. So something that definitely is being rewarded probably in the near future.
Actually, I think that's a really good point, and I think there is an incredible potential to address this point by even adding an addendum to the charter agreement that is an environmental component, and having that in place so that the yacht crew know where they stand on it, but also the charterer knows what to expect. And so, you know, having a few things in place that are actually people are signing on to as part of that charter agreement, I think is a really, really good way forward to help yacht crew navigate that and to make it very, very transparent between the two parties.
Yeah.
And I heard recently in a conference actually in south of France, a University of Monaco speaking about slow tourism. Have you heard about that concept?
Yeah.
So tourism, but I mean with a meaning, and which has an impact as well on communities, and so which is linked actually to what you were saying.
I think yacht is already relatively slow. I mean, if you want to get somewhere fast, you shouldn't take a yacht. But no, I understand what you mean, and I hope that continues and that yachting definitely jumps on.
Probably meaningful actually ways actually to enjoy actually yachting, and not just to doing the traditional Monaco, Cannes, Saint-Tropez, hop it up that we see here. So. Closing message. What final message would you like to leave about the importance of sustainability in the superyacht industry?
I'll go first. For me, it's bringing sustainability into the bottom line of consideration, into our baseline thinking. It needs to be considered in everything that we're doing, and that's the entire life cycle of things as well. It's when we can't just rely on retrofitting. It is operations, it's build, it's everything, and it's in all the decision making. So, you know, quite often it's brought in as a last minute consideration, and it's like, okay, we've decided to do this. Oh, how sustainable is that? As opposed to, this is the more sustainable way of moving forward. This is what we should be doing. How do we make that possible? And I think that's a real flip on things that will help. And it's a big task, but I think there's enough people now that are interested in doing that we can really start to push that into our decision making.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the whole sustainability topic is the biggest threat for the industry, but also the biggest lifeline that it can grab and hold on to and position itself as a lead by example community within the maritime community. Yachting has all the ingredients to take the lead. We have worked with affluent people that are the smartest in the world, and definitely working on this in any other business than maybe their yachting hobby. So let's not underestimate the owners and clients, especially focus on future clients that maybe we currently not tap into successfully, and be proactive. This needs to be a new business model and not just a tweak or a feature. So definitely.
At the end, even we are not proactive, regulation, insurance, finance, taxes will hit us. So sooner or later we'll have to do something. So as you say,
that's the threat part, and at the same time we have a huge opportunity always in front of us with working with such an affluent clientele, a flexible industry where everything is possible. So it's not impossible. It's actually a great opportunity and time to be in. But we need to grab those opportunities before they become responsibilities.
Yeah,
I think as well that sharing of information that we've touched on, it's just so key, and that sharing both within the industry itself and being really open and transparent and honest about sustainability and what we're doing, but it's also beyond the industry. And as you say, yachting has the potential to really lead in a lot of ways, and we need to be basically sharing that information beyond the industry. I think is, we can start to see real improvements beyond what we're also doing then, which becomes really interesting.
So let's all meet on the 10th of September.
Please. Highlighting that, absolutely. Make that part of our yachting package.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tamara. Thank Rob. Actually, I think it's been very enlightening. So I think, yeah, we agree again that sustainability isn't just a trend, it's a necessity for the future of the superyacht industry and our planet. So by embracing sustainable practices, we can protect the natural environments that make yachting such a unique and rewarding experience. So it's up to all of us, as we said, so industry leaders, yacht owners, crew members alike, to commit to sustainability and ensure that our oceans remain healthy and vibrant for generations to come. So one thing to remember is that every little small effort counts. So let's work together to create a more sustainable future for the yachting. Thank you.
Great.
Do you have questions?
And maybe there are.
Oh, we've had many questions that I've been slowly adding here. This is one of them.
This is a very kind statement, but not a question, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a comment.
Yeah.
This we dealt with this one. Hi, Xavier.
Sorry, I was wrong. There was just many wonderful questions, wonderful comments on the session. Thank you all so much. This was truly amazing from the speakers and the moderators. I definitely trust Janet when she says she came really prepared, so I will let her take the lead. Also, she will be joining us in the next session. Thank you all for your time. We are going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back with the next session.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Bye.
See you on the 10th.
Hi, everyone. I am back. So thank you, everyone, for continuing to be on our forum. We are heading into our third and last session of the day. Today, on the next session, we'll be talking about implementing sustainable practices on board. This session will cover practical strategies for reducing environmental impact while maintaining the highest standards of luxury and performance on board.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
So nice meeting you, Aubrey, actually. And hello again to those who were present to the previous session, and welcome to the new one who just joined us. So it's a pleasure to be here with you ladies and to discuss on implementing sustainable practices on board. So today we're focusing on the vital role sustainability plays in preserving our oceans and ensuring the future of the yachting industry. So as a unique blend of luxury and adventure, the yachting industry has a responsibility to protect the environment that make it so special. So sustainability is not just a trend, as we mentioned, and I think we all agree, it's a necessity that should guide every decision from yacht design, but also up to daily operations. And we saw in the previous session how important actually is to take into account actually the hotel load and the operations on board. So we have the privilege of hearing from two visionary ladies today who are at the front of driving sustainable change within actually the industry. They're not only advocates for the environment, but also practical innovators who understand the challenges of implementing these practices on board. So our discussion will cover a broad range of topics from the core components of the sustainability to yachting practices and the inspiration behind these initiatives. And this will be very inspiring, I'm sure, to the practical steps and challenges of turning sustainability from an idea into reality, because at the end, this is what is important. We also explore how training and certification programs can help and are equipping yacht crews with the knowledge and tools that need to reduce the environmental footprint. So our goal today is not just to discuss sustainability, but to inspire action and to provide you with the insights and practical advice needed to implement meaningful change on board your vessels. And I think this is very important for Andrea and Rhea, that everybody lives with an action plan with easy steps that are actionable. So without further ado, let's dive into our discussion, and please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists, Claire FERANDIER, founder of ETYC, and Aubrey Keith, representing Seakeepers. So briefly, Aubrey is an ex-crew, current captain of Motor Yacht Discovery 2, and she will tell us more about the missions and of the boat and what her title entails. She also has a master's degree in marine science, so definitely know about sustainability and what she's talking about, and is a program development manager for Seakeepers. So you will tell us more later on about your activities. Claire is also an ex-crew, so she's an ex-chief stewardess, passionate, as you will see when she starts speaking, about sustainability, who decided to create ETYC, which is a pioneer startup that offers a comprehensive training program for yacht crew, but also for yachts, and helping them to reduce their impact on the environment. So to kick off the discussion, and for those maybe who are not present to the previous session, let's begin by exploring the foundational aspects of sustainability in the yachting industry. So Claire, maybe, can you start telling us, and can you start defining what sustainable practices on super yacht entail and what they are critical for the yachting industry?
Yes, sure. Hi, Aubrey. First, I wanted to say hello. We didn't have the occasion to meet each other before the session, so I'm really nice to meet you, and thank you, Janet, for being here and animated everything. So for me, the sustainability on board a yacht is really a need. What we are facing when we are working as a crew is lots of issues which are moving all the time. We are going to some place, we will not find what we used to buy when we are in Europe or in America. I think that's Aubrey. And this is something which is not easy for the crew to do when we are doing provisioning or when we are buying everything for the boat. Same also for the fuel. So because the boat is moving a lot, because the boat doesn't have lots of spaces on board, it's sustainability will help to fix all that stuff, even when we don't know that. So I think it's something a need more than an option. And I don't know if you heard me, Aubrey, but I was just saying that I'm really nice to meet you. We didn't have the opportunity to talk together before the session, so I'm really nice to meet you in person today.
Nice to meet you as well.
Aubrey, something to add maybe on what sustainable practices on board are and why they are so important? I think we've got a problem with Aubrey.
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah. Andrea, can you maybe send a WhatsApp to Aubrey?
Yes. I will make sure I'm here making sure that when she freezes, you guys can continue. So
while we are trying to to find where Aubrey is, and maybe Claire, can you tell us what inspired you actually to create ETYC?
What is what? Sorry.
What inspired you to create actually your organization, and how does ETYC contribute to advances to sustainability in yachting?
Yes, sure. So while I was working on board yachts, I saw some action that we were doing during my seasons on board, and I asked myself, why are we working like this? Why do we have that amount of waste, and why are we throwing away that much of food, energy consumption, water consumption? I was really surprised the way we were working on board the boats, because every crew would say, I mean, most of them will know that we are buying lots of snacks, lots of food for the crew, like everything, even like stuff you will never buy at your place, but just because you can buy it, you just take it and it will end on the cupboard for a while. And then I was just asking myself why we were doing this. So I was looking for a training to train myself to reduce my own impact on board the boat. And because I couldn't find it, I just decided to create it. So I trained myself with ISO standard 14001, which is a sustainability standard. And then with courses with Cambridge. And that helps me to create the training design, especially for the crew.
Great. Easy. Doesn't exist, create it. That's clear.
Trying to, actually. I tried to, but yeah, we did it.
Aubrey, what pushed you actually to join Seakeepers?
Yeah, so first of all, sorry about my internet connection. I guess it's not strong enough where I was for a video call. But yeah, to answer your question, I can think of a lot of things that really inspired me to end up where I am, and particularly with Seakeepers. So as you mentioned, I used to work in the yachting industry in various roles. So mostly as a tender captain, dive instructor, or first mate. And I kept having these really incredible experiences where I got to collaborate with local marine scientists in areas that we were operating in. And it almost felt like the universe was telling me that that's where I should be taking my career next. And I spoke with some of my peers on other boats, and they were like, Aubrey, these experiences are not the norm. So I really felt like I had ended up in the exact right place to foster that passion. And it was really just becoming the part of my job that I got the most fulfillment from. So almost a year after the pandemic hit, I decided to go back to school, get my master's in marine science, and the initial idea sort of creating a role for myself aboard a yacht as a officer in science and sustainability. But realized that was actually a lot harder to find than I thought it would be. And luckily I learned about Seakeepers at one of their beach cleanups towards the end of my degree. And I realized that they pretty much do exactly what I was hoping to bring to yachting. In the opportunities to collaborate with marine researchers and have those experiences that I was having. But they were doing it on a much greater scale and with far more impact than I could hope to offer by working with just one boat. So shortly after I graduated, a position with them became available and I jumped on it. Yeah, that's how I ended up with Seakeepers.
And you see exactly to be in the right place for you, which is very inspiring Very inspiring. It is. Let's move to practical implementation. So now that we have an understanding of what sustainable means for the yachting, effective waste management, Claire, what are the most effective strategies we can implement to minimize the waste generation and managing waste on board? Can you provide example of successful programs or systems to put in place?
Actually, the general waste management system is already in place on board for the minimum size of boat. So usually it's something that should be applied on the boat. Not every boat are doing it, but most of them they are. So they are already sorting waste much more than what we are doing at land, which is something really tricky for them because they have 10 different types of garbage on board the boat, but when they're going on land, there is like 2 or 3 different, and this is something they are really struggling with because they are doing lots of efforts on board to sort the waste, and at the end, there is no the same things doing on the land. And I'm talking more for the biggest yachts because the big yachts are really these rules, and it's really an obligation. They really have to do it. A small boat, I saw some boat, they just don't know how to do it. They just don't make the difference between some plastics. So it's about education. They really need to understand more about that. And then how we can be effective with the waste. The first is to reduce. We don't need as much as quantity that we are buying on board a boat. The thing is, like, as I said, the boat is moving a lot, and most of the time is always the fear about missing. So we just buy because we don't know when we will come back and if we're gonna miss it. So this is something I saw on many yachts. But also we are training them during the training how to choose the different packaging. Because there is different way to buy the same product, and some have 10 packaging for one candy, which is inside like a plastic plus inside a big plastic, and so and so it's just the way you are buying the products. Choose the best packaging, the one which is more efficiently recycling. And the one which is demanding less energy to produce, and less packaging as possible.
Yeah, maybe it's as well to reduce the single-use plastic on board. To have some
the single-use plastic, but inland is already really tricky to find single-use plastic glasses, everything, because we are already doing that inland. I really think more about the food packaging. When you are buying tea and you have the tea box plus each bag of tea in a plastic tea sachet, and then the tea sachet is already in microplastic as well that you are putting. This is too much. This is too much. There is a very, very easy way to buy tea. It's like then you can reduce the waste. It's just a box with a tea vrac like this, and you just take the quantity you want, and that's it. It's all the things like this, just to find a way to buy the same product but with less packaging.
And have you seen boats having on board waste to energy systems, turning organic waste into a usable energy?
No, I never saw that.
Aubrey?
No, I haven't seen that, but one thing that you can do is if you're in port and perhaps there is some local composting facilities, you can save your food scraps and bring them to a local compost facility, thereby turning the waste to energy in another form.
I've seen that actually on a boat in Monaco.
Yeah, and if you do have plans for
3D printing room as well, to reprint with a 3D printer the material, which was when they needed a piece on board. Actually, they had a 3D print room actually in a separate room. So yeah, there are things actually definitely that you can do. What about optimizing energy efficiency? Or what best practices can Yacht implement to optimize energy consumptions? And how can renewable energy sources be integrated into their operations? Claire or Brie, I don't know.
Yeah, I can take this one if you'd like. So I guess some best practices for optimizing energy consumptions could be upgrading your systems to more energy efficient things like LED lighting or having smart HVAC controls. You can also optimize your propulsion. You can get hybrid systems, or just properly maintaining your engine, keeping the hull and props clean, and also reducing your speed. So just simply reducing your speed from maybe 15% from full throttle can save you like 30% in fuel, and that'll also reduce your emissions. One vessel that's actually a part of our Discover Yacht fleet that stands as kind of a leading example in optimizing their energies is a vessel called Energy Observer. And they utilize hydrogen fuel cells with a combination of other renewable energy sources. And that allows them to be entirely off the grid and produce zero emissions. So it's really quite an outstanding vessel for showing ways to be really energy efficient.
Yeah, I would add there is some shipyards that are already reusing the energy on board the boats to use on the other part of the boat. One boat we trained called Madame Kate, which is a Damen, Amels Yachting, it's Damen, Amels. They are using the heat of the generator to reuse inside the boat, so to heat the water for the boiling water. So when they are cruising, actually they are spending less energy to heat the hot water than when they are dock or when they are at anchor. So as soon as you can reuse the energy on board the boat and you create a circular energy, this is something like every shipyard can try to design and to implement on board the boat. For me, this is something really, really interesting and important to reduce the consumption, energy consumption of the boat. And there is also something that will maybe make you laugh, but just switch off your lights. I mean, every single crew member I worked on board with on a boat, everyone, there is always some. The light from the cabin is always switched on, or even the lights on the bathroom is like always, and the captain is fighting all the time. Who let the lights switch on? And it's something like I don't understand, which is so easy to do. But still, we still have to say it. It's nothing. So maybe the automation would be really interesting. When you leave the room, it's like switch off on its own. That could be interesting to make sure the crew switch off the light. But yeah, it's something easy, but they have to do it. And I don't know if you know, but there is now a new regulation that you have to switch off the underwater lights when you after 10 p.m. And actually, I see in Monaco some boats are still not doing it even inside the ports, which is like something they really, really have to do it.
In the Billy as well, you see them all.
Yeah, not all, because I can see at anchor in front of Monaco or inside the port, there is like most of them are switch off the underwater lights, but there is still some like huge boats keeping the underwater lights during the full night inside the port or at anchor. It's forbidden, and they really should do it. And even for them, it's reducing the consumption. So there is no explanation to continuing doing it unless the owner is asking for it. But actually, there is the law now, so they have to do it.
Yeah, for marine life preservation.
Yeah.
What about water consumption and water conservation? What can be done?
Aubrey, I'll let you start.
Sure. Yeah, so some really simple things that can be done are to install low flow fixtures in like your shower heads, your sinks, deck hoses, and things like that. Always make sure that the water is turned off. You can even have gray water recycling systems, which are really cool. So you can purify that water, reuse it again. There's also advanced purification technology so that you're not bringing on board things like bottled water. You're drinking water that you've desalinated and added back in all the necessary minerals so it's safe to drink. And yeah, I would say probably just to do some regular audits on your water usage, just to help identify if there's any areas to improve on your boat. Just make sure that you're using it as efficiently as possible. I spoke with one of the captains in our Discovery Yacht fleet about this question and asked if there was anything that was really working for them to save water. And he said that they are always running their washing machines and dishwashers on the speed cycles. So that significantly reduces water consumption, and just making sure that the crew is all trained on how to manage their water use while on board.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is also something that you can put on board the boat in every tap. It's a little thing that you just plug it, and it's reducing the consumption by 50%. So you don't really feel that it's less water, but it's better for the what?
Sorry, I lost you. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that you can plug something on a little thing that is costing like 2-3 euros each on every tap, and then you are reducing the water consumption by 50%. So if you do that to all the crew area and in the kitchen as well, is helping to reduce a lot the water consumption. There is also obviously the main consumption for the boat is the washdown. When you are cleaning the boat is most of the time the biggest consumption of the boat. So there is lots of things that you can put in place on board to reduce the consumption of the boat while you are washing the boat. So there is, for example, reduce the quantity of the soap, because more you put soap, more you need to rinse. There is also some type of product that you can use where you need less rinsing as well. And there is also something that you can do, which is trying to wash the boat the day which is raining, not when there is thunderstorm, because like a week ago I saw a huge thunderstorm here in Monaco and the guy was cleaning the boat with the aluminium stick, and I was like, oh my god, this is not a good idea. But yeah, I think the washdown is one of the biggest consumption for the boat, and it's something like have to be carefully questioned by the crew and how they can reduce this consumption as well.
Yeah, so by listening to you, definitely there are things which can easily be done and which doesn't require like a huge amount of money actually to install. Yeah. Let's move to eco-friendly products and innovation. Sustainability, so it isn't just about practices, but it's also about the products and technologies we use. So Claire, how can yacht crew identify and incorporate sustainable cleaning agents and biodegradable materials into their operation, and what challenges they might face?
So the first important point I would highlight is how to recognize a sustainable product. Because it's easy for everybody to say, I'm using sustainable product. You just
labels.
Yeah, labels, certification for me is the first things you have to take a look when you are buying a product. And what they are facing as an issue would be, is the product is working as well as the chemical product is working? Most of the time is a question that people are asking themselves, not only on the boat, but also at home. When you are trying to buy eco-friendly shampoo, sometimes they're like, yeah, but there is not that much foam, or the smell is not that strong, and blah, blah, blah. So there is that kind of issue that people are facing. But the advice I would give to the crew and to any person who wants to change something at home for their body or the cleaning home to sustainable product is just to try. Just try one. Don't buy like 10 things from a brand and say, oh, I found a nice brand, I'm gonna try it, and then you buy 10 different things from the same brand, and at the end you don't like it. Just try a little sample, and if you like go for it. Otherwise, change and try something else. We all need to find something you like to work with, and for that you need to try. So if you contact some company, there are sustainable product that I know you will have some tomorrow. Just ask for sample, try it, and if you like, then you go for it. But see for the eco label. So eco certification, my favorite is the EcoCert, which is for me the most trustful certification. And also watch the packaging, which is super important. Voilà.
And I think maybe again, education is important there, to educate and to show what are the benefits. So it's always, we come to the same circle, like education.
Yeah, but the benefit is easy. You don't need to... What?
You need to know them.
Yeah, but I mean, for example, when you are using a chemical product, the smell can be so strong that you can't even open your eyes. You are like this, you can't breathe, and you can also harm the material. When we see on board a yacht, we have lots of very sensitive material, and when you are using a chemical product, there is a risk to harm this material. And we see on many boats they have marble. Most of them, the marble is not clean because there is a use of product that makes stains on the marble. So when you are using a biodegradable product, so a respectful product, you are reducing the risk to have a stain on the really sensitive material. You are reducing the risk for your health by breathing the smell, but also for your skin. So these are the benefits.
Aubrey, can you mention something about the sustainability kits you proposed?
Yeah, first I just want to follow up on what you said there with the eco certs and everything. I think that is a great label and a great way to identify environmentally friendly products. But there is a challenge to that, is that some studies have even found known harmful substances contained in one of the products that are labeled as eco certs. So also do your own research and make sure that you really know what's in the product that you're buying. One way to do that is by looking at the product safety data sheet and making sure they don't contain harmful substances, but you can find those online and instructions on how to read them. But some common codes to look out would be like H400 through like H420, and those have known harmful substances in them. But basically with those products, things you want to look out for is like phosphates, especially, which when you release phosphates into the water, they can behave like fertilizers and cause algae blooms, which can eventually lead to oxygen depletion, and then in severe cases can suffocate aquatic life, which is really bad. So other agents to look out for are things like chlorine, ammonia, potassium hydroxide, solvents, other chemicals. They can all affect the way that wildlife feeds, breathes, and even breeds. So you may need to bring those hazardous waste things to a disposal area, proper disposal area at your marina or shipyards, but make sure that you're not dumping them down the drains or putting it into trash. I think another big thing to realize is that a lot of those old cleaning products that have those things in them, like the phosphates and all that, they contain known harmful ingredients that are not compliant under MARPOL Annex 5, which basically applies to all vessels. So most cleaning products like boat washes are, essentially being discharged directly into the sea as you wash it off your boat. So if you're using a product that's known to be harmful to marine life, then basically what MARPOL is saying is that you are now dumping garbage into the sea. So really be careful with that. It's no longer like a friendly option because MARPOL is trying to enforce these things a bit better. It's now, a necessity to get things that are actually biodegradable. I also, as a young deckhand, I always wanted to do the eco-friendly products, and like Claire noticed, I got, a lot of pushback from the team because they didn't feel like it did as good of a job as the heavy chemicals did. But I think that the sector has really come a long way in recent years, and the products are all so much better. Seakeepers, we offer to vessels that join our fleets or come to meet us at events, items from our sustainability kits, which is basically just a collection of sustainable or environmentally friendly alternatives to common products that people use on boats. So that can be something like an aluminum water bottle, like this, to use instead of a plastic water bottle if you need to have something that is like, you know, handy for guests that forgot their water bottles. Things like reef safe sunscreens, and also a few like examples of boat washes and things like that are in our sustainability kits. So if anybody does want to join our Discover Yacht fleet, that is something that you would have access to, is our sustainability kits.
If I can add something that if there is crew listening to us, if they can just don't buy any bleach on board, because I saw so many boats with bleach on board. And the recent one I went was in July, and the chief stewardess told me, do you smell a bad smell in this area? And I said no. She asked me because since she had the COVID, she couldn't smell this kind of like bad smell, she told me. So she said, do you smell something bad there? I said, no, there is no bad smell. She said, okay, because the captain told me that the smell was bad and I need to put bleach on this thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is just no, you can't put bleach. And then she said, yeah, but you know, he said that then there is no blah 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 around bleach, just
no bleach.
No bleach. At all. No bleach. There is other really nice products working very well for the smell, especially. Ask your chief engineer for something sustainable, but please don't use bleach. Yeah.
Another topic, Clara, you're going to be very passionate about budgets. So let's move to challenges and sustainable budget. So implementing sustainable practices come with its own set of challenges. So from practical hurdles to budget constraints. So in this, so let's address the biggest obstacle crew faces and explore how to balance sustainability with operational cost, and discuss also the sustainable practices, how they can lead actually to long-term financial benefits. I don't know, maybe Aubrey, can you tell us, speaking about challenges, what are the biggest challenges yacht crew face when implementing sustainable practices, and how could they overcome this? And I suspect is changing habits, perception, cost.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with some challenges, they're quite easy up front to kind of fund and make the changes, but other technologies might have really high upfront costs. So getting, you know, everyone to understand that yes, there might be an initial investment, but down the road we might see, you know, benefits of reduced costs. So those high upfront costs can be quite challenging to defend. Also resistance to change from the crew. You might have crew members that are like, oh, I've always done it this way, I've never had an issue. And just getting, you know, everyone on board with like, hey, we need to make this change. It's not only for our benefit, but everyone's benefit. And getting them to understand that. And also just sometimes it's quite complex to integrate a lot of these new procedures and technologies in the way. So, I mean, I guess best ways to overcome that would be through education. So all the yacht crew listening to you now, kudos for educating yourselves and listening to this forum. Another way to get people on board with sustainability is just demonstrating the long-term financial and environmental benefits, so that this can be really effective with like large upfront costs, like I was saying, to different sustainable practices, especially if the owners are very budget aware. That can be easily defended, and you can let them know that you know, they will actually end up saving money in the end.
On the long term.
And yeah, in the long term. And then another way to kind of ease the transition might be phasing implementation. So starting with maybe the most impactful changes, making sure everyone masters those new practices, and then move on to introducing something else once it's mastered. And then I guess also fostering a culture of sustainability on board. So making sure that leadership can demonstrate their commitment to being sustainable, and the crew feels knowledgeable and supported in their efforts.
Claire, something to add?
Yes. I would. I definitely agree with Aubrey, because sometimes there is some crew just like, yeah, we always used to do that, so I'm going to continue, just because it's a lack of knowledge, of course. And sometimes even when after the training there is it's really a minimum of quantity of crew, but there is still some that are like, yeah, I don't really feel concerned. But most of the time it's like, all of them feel concerned after the training, but definitely the cost. What I was saying since like 2 months now, or 3 months.
That was my question. My next question.
Yeah, we really need to add a line on the budget sheets for the sustainability for the boats. That could be for material, for the crew training, for anything that they can do to reduce the impact of the boat with a budget. They definitely need a budget. It's as I heard on the previous talk, and I was also seeing that in Dubai in 2022, especially is we need to change the business model. And I heard Robert said that the business model has to change, and they need to add a budget line for sustainability. There is the marketing budget line that should have a sustainability budget line. This is for me something that will help everybody to make a plan, an action plan in place. Otherwise, it's just going to be like small things during the year and nothing really organized, which is, for me, is blocking the evolution of the industry, of a boat or any companies. And then if also, I would say, if the owner is not really sensible about that, sensitive, we can introduce him to some foundation, because I think doing some investment for the boat, for the crew, it's something like the owner really doesn't really understand. But if we maybe give them the first idea, would be, oh, maybe you can give to a foundation for the ocean. That will be a first step. He can donate for a foundation, and then, you know, you just give him the idea. You can show him what the foundation is doing, and then so it's just the discussion is coming with the owner, and more action will be taken. I'm definitely convinced about it. So yeah, this is the budget, the budget's passion.
Can you share maybe the results of your recent survey?
Yeah. The recent survey was just before the summer. So I asked to management companies if they have any sustainability budget line for any boats that are managing, and we received 156 answers from management. I mean, from the 160 boats are managed by the management company, they answered to us. So we had like 6 or 7 management companies who answered to us. They are managing in total 156 yachts, and only one was adding a sustainability budget line, which was about 15,000 euros a year. And the result is the boat trained with us in 2020 or 21. And that was the first boat to train with the training, just because they was convinced they already had the budget to invest in sustainability action for the boat. So this is the result. And then all of them said, yeah, we are doing some stuff. It will be around 5,000 euros a year, but there is no budget line dedicated. So this is why they don't know how much really they are spending to some action on board, because it's not related. It's just not there.
What would be a good amount to start to have a budget line for sustainability?
Yeah, it would be 15,000, 10,000, 15,000 would be good. It's not that big for this kind of yachts. For a small yacht, maybe yes. I mean, for sure, yes. But for a minimum size, which is 50 meters, I would say it's nothing. 50,000 for a year.
Yeah, maybe again show actually the advantage on the long term and the economical benefits as well, maybe in addition.
Yeah. I mean, we are talking now about the economical benefits, but tomorrow will be the insurance. And when you're gonna
started, did I tell you? I see insurance is because yeah.
And if you're gonna sail the boat tomorrow, if the boat is is consuming too much and is polluting too much, the owner will say, okay, no, I don't want this boat because I'm going to be blocked in 5 years. So it's something is investment for the future, for the boat, as for the owner must.
And for charter vessels especially, that can increase their market value and appeal to environmentally conscious clients.
Yeah, and this was one of the topics that was mentioned earlier in the previous session, definitely. Yeah, and I think we start seeing more and more as well. Yeah. Moving to crew training, certification, and community engagement, which is very important as well. Claire, with you, what are the key components of ETYC training program for yacht crew, and how does your certification process ensure yacht meets sustainability goals?
Yeah. So the beginning of the question was what's the key component of the training, right?
Yeah, for the training program for crew.
So
certification.
For me, there is two very important point to highlight on the training. The morning we are talking about the risk for the environment, the climate change. That this is the why we need to add to take action. Sorry. So this is to highlight to the crew. This is where we are now, and this is why we need to take action on board the boat. For me, this is the basic of understanding to take action, because it's like if you don't know that your car is having an issue, if you don't see the lights saying, hey, you have your wheels which has an issue, you need to start and to change it, you will just continue just because you don't know. So it's something for me really important. And then during the afternoon, we see the management system, which is for me the most important part of the course, because it's giving them the basic action plan. It's based on the ISO standard. I mean, not based, but inspired by the ISO standard. So it's an action plan that the crew will decide together where they want to go and how they are going there to reduce the impact. So this is the management system, the environmental management system. And we are auditing the management system yearly. So every department of the boat has to take minimum 3 actions to reduce the impacts of their departments. And we are developing right now, actually it's developed already since last month, it's a digital platform. So the platform, every crew will have access to the digital platform. They will connect, they will end up to the departments, and they will be able to add some action that they took on board and to see the evolution of this. This is for me the main component of the training.
Yep, great. And it's only a day training?
It's 1 day training. Yeah, we used to do a 2-day training for head of department, but because I find out most of the time the crew was so busy, head of department couldn't be focused for 2 days training all together, because for us it's really important to have them all together. As I said, I have a bachelor in psychology, so I designed a training where all the crew will have to talk together about their own issues and to share together. Because I remember one day, which is something like really I have in memories, I was starting working on board, I was doing the washing machine, and the engineer came in the laundry and he said, okay, ladies, you have to reduce the washing machine, okay? And then he left. I was like, why? He didn't even explain to us why. And I didn't understand why he came there. It's not his business. We are just washing the clothes. But yeah, his business was the gray water tank was full and we were in the port and we couldn't empty it. And it was like, escalate, because we just didn't understand the issue we all facing together on board a boat. And this is why the training, all the head of department has to be together to discuss about the issue they are facing too. And so there is 1 day for head of department and 1 day for the rest of the crew, which is 2 different training.
Yeah.
Which are 2 different training.
Aubrey, can you tell us more about Discovery Yacht Program, which is, I mean, that sustainability has 3 pillars, and one of the pillars is social as well, and the human element. And so, yeah, can you tell us more about Discovery Yacht Program, which I think is definitely a great example on how to engage actually the yachting community?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Discovery Yacht Program basically connects researchers and the yachting community. So we have programs within that, like our scientist-led expeditions and citizen science projects, where vessels can get actively involved in contributing to marine science. I really feel like this, plays a great role in sustainability and, the topic that we're discussing today, because these scientist-led expeditions and citizen science projects all give these vessels access to tools and resources they wouldn't have otherwise. Gives you the power to kind of teach yacht owners and crews about the ocean, allowing them to witness kind of firsthand what the challenges are that it faces due to unsustainable practices. And this can really deepen their understanding and commitment to protecting marine ecosystems and the creatures within it. There's a really famous quote by Jacques Cousteau that says, "We only protect what we love, and we only love what we understand. And we only understand what we're taught." So we're giving these people a deeper love and understanding of the ocean by letting them experience and host these marine expeditions. So, for example, one of our projects, we have a citizen science projects where we give vessels a Newston net, part of our Newston Net Research Collective, and they'll tow that net and collect samples of microplastics in the water. So all of the boats that we have that are participating in that project are very likely not going to want to use anything with plastic on board their boat, because they've now understood the deeper issue with microplastics in the water and just how connected we are to it. So yeah, that's, I think, something that can really change the way you think on your boat.
I have a question for you, Aubrey, if I can. Sorry, Janet. I
course.
take the opportunity. I have a boat that I trained last year, and is quite a big boat, and they are really advanced in terms of action on board to reduce the impact of the boat. Is already an hybrid boat, and so because we are talking with them during the year, we're giving them advices when they need and support, and they were looking for a sea bin to put when they were at anchor, to collect the plastic and all the waste on board, and just during the charter or anytime they were anchor. And so we try to contact Seabin and to ask if we can have this kind of bin to put back to the boat. We never had feedback from them. Did you ever put that on board a boat with seakeepers, or are you, I don't know, familiar with that?
I am familiar with sea bins. I've seen them a lot at marinas, and they need a sort of floating dock to be able to work effectively to move with the tides. But yeah, no, I would try reaching out to them again. We don't distribute that as part of a citizen science project, but we do a lot of community outreach where we encourage people to do beach cleanups. We host a lot of beach cleanups ourselves, but we encourage our Discovery Yacht fleet to also get involved with cleaning up the beach, clean up the ocean whenever they see trash, slow down, pick it up. As part of our sustainability kit, we also provide a large mesh bag that you can carry with you whenever you go on a beach outing or out on your boat trip to kind of collect any trash that you find, any marine debris that you find. But just being good stewards in that way and picking up as much as you can. But the sea bin can get it, 24/7 when you might not be watching. So that's a really great tool. And I would encourage them to look further into that if that's what they're interested in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Aubrey, I have another question for you. I understand that Seakeeper's aim is to promote oceanic research, conservation, and education by something that is maybe quite unique, using private yachts or vessels or private vessels as platforms for the activity. So let's say that you rent a yacht, there's an owner interesting to start. How is the process? So what are the steps to need to undergo actually to be part of the program?
Yeah, so all that it requires is that you would fill out a Discovery Yacht application that can be found on our website, or you can email us at info@seakeepers.org, and we can send you a link to that application. So when you sign up, you would then have access to all of our programs. You can participate in a citizen science project where we would provide you with all the tools and equipment necessary to be able to collect data or samples for marine scientists in various projects, depending on where you're cruising. You can also then volunteer to host a scientist-led expedition. People might not be aware, but the cost of chartering a vessel is actually the most prohibitive cost in marine research. and leads to so many research permits going unused. So you can use your vessel, the yacht that you're working on, as a platform for marine researchers, giving them access to the ocean and critical areas that they need to study. We have a list of all the expeditions that we have available on our website, and you can look those up, or I'd be happy to send them if you reached out. You can browse through our expeditions and say, oh, I would really like to do that, get involved with this. Owners and crew are welcome to participate and get involved with the science, so it can be just a really value add to your whole operation.
Great. Only owners and crew, or
charter guests as well? If charter guests are interested in incorporating that into their holiday, yeah, I mean, whoever wants to participate. It's just obviously going to be limited to how many passengers the vessel can hold. Usually research teams vary significantly. Some only need space for maybe 2 to 3 researchers. Some might need accommodation for up to 10, 12 researchers. So it really depends on the vessel and the specific project.
But do you need a lot of space, actually? I suppose that they bring material with them, no?
No, and typically most of the research is conducted from the tender. We've in fact even had smaller vessels get involved with us, people that are small, privately owned and operated sailing boats that have hosted scientist-led expeditions. So there are projects that can fit any size vessel wherever you are in the world. So yeah, it doesn't matter the size, but there are certain projects that do require specialized equipment. So we might request in the proposal for the expedition, it might say that they need a dive compressor on board because it's going to be in remote areas and they need to be able to scuba dive and fill tanks. Or if they're doing shark tagging activities, it's generally preferred to not have a rib style tender just because of hooks and sharp things that might be around. So if we're doing any shark tagging, a rigid tender is going to be much more preferable. So there are certain things. We have some big projects looking for vessels that have helicopter landing pads, or ones that have large davits that can bring on and off submersible, things like that. So each project will say if there are specialized things that you need to have on board to participate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Definitely we'll have a look. And I think we should have a look. Ladies, I think you have been really impressive. Do you have a final word to say? No? No, please. This is the final word.
If I can say maybe that I hope the crew will feel that they have the power to make change on board, and they will feel less stressed and pressured by the industry, that they really don't know what the crew is facing on board with the pressure they already have with the guest and the season. And I really hope we will be able to create a beautiful community where the crew is supporting, and where the crew is also passionate about the marine life in general, and the expeditions and everything. And I hope also there is some key decision, like management company listening to us, owners of yachts, maybe, I hope so, but owners representative, that they will take in consideration that the risk they are facing not doing anything, which is for me the bigger risk, which is not doing anything. So yeah, I really hope. But there is also a sentence that I heard from the masterclass, that hope is not a plan. So I don't hope they will do something, but I'm sure they're gonna do it. So I'm going more on this way, because hope is not a plan. But yes, I'm doing it with,
we were saying before, it's more important to be proactive than reactive, because at the end, if they don't do anything, they will be hit by regulation, by problems with insurance, with taxes, with finances, with so at the end they will have to do something. But definitely it's important to understand that, yeah, you need to start doing something now, and that every little step counts.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I believe, but beyond the clear scientific benefit that there is with going sustainable or doing something like hosting an expedition, You know, they're just really rewarding ways to spend your time aboard the boat. You just feel better about what you're doing and how you're interacting with the environment. And specifically with our expeditions, I mean, it's unlike any typical donation to a charity. You get to see exactly what you're contributing to, and you can really feel the impact you have. So I think with the scrutiny that, you know, we face in the yachting industry, we should really be using more yachts as platforms for marine research. You know, give yourself that karma credit and show the world the positive impact we can make on the environment.
Yeah, and maybe leadership is also very super important with like captains on board as well, and manager setting the tone. And yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you, ladies. I don't know if we have some questions. Andrea? See you tomorrow. Okay. Any questions? Great presentation and discussion on recycling. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to say mostly comments, no actual questions. So thank you guys so much. I think a common one, and I know I heard someone say already their website, but if you can close out with, because I don't have every there. If you can guys close out with what is the best platform that we should be following, or what is the best, what projects do you have going on that we should be paying attention to?
I guess I can start. Yeah, so if you want to give us a follow on Instagram, we're just Seakeepers. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, and be sure to check out all of our scientist-led expeditions that are published on our website. If you have any additional questions, just reach out to us at info@seakeepers.org, and we'll be happy to share more resources with you about how you can get involved.
Yeah, on our side, there is ETYC Yachts, obviously, on Instagram and Facebook, and ETYC on LinkedIn. There is also the option for crew members to be sponsored by one of our sponsors if they want to be trained and they don't have the money to pay for the training. One of our sponsors is really motivated to offer one training each month to one crew member. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if you're interested. And also, if you are yachts managed by a Monaco company, you can have subsidies for the training from the government. So reach out to us, and we can help you to find a way if you want to train the crew, and we will be here to support you.
Janet?
No.
Well, follow her on LinkedIn. That's how I found her, and she gives very insightful posts. So thank you guys all so much. And we're going to switch on and have Rhea and myself do the closing for the day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Have a great session tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you, everyone, for those that woke up late or are staying up late, wherever time zone you are in. This is our second forum, and I am so happy for the amazing speakers and moderators that were enthusiastic and took time out of their busy schedules to come on Yachting International Radio's conference to impart their wisdom, their ongoing projects. These are people that are working really hard to actually improve the state of sustainability practices within the yachting industry. So incredibly relevant for those that are land-based on shipbuilding, and today, especially for yacht crew. You guys are on board all these vessels. You have direct contact with the oceans. I am so happy for you guys to get all these tools today to understand how much you actually can do.
I think it's really important, Andrea, because at the end of the day, I can guarantee you that there are a lot of people out there that do want to make better decisions and better choices for the future of the planet. They just don't know how to go about it. And it doesn't have to be something that is 100% all-encompassing of your life. If we all took one little step in changing one habit that we have right now that creates an impact on the planet, what a better world it would be. So every single one of the tips that we got today, absolutely phenomenal. And we are so pleased and so proud to have been able to host all of these amazing and insightful and expert speakers, to be honest. I want to give out a great big shout out to our sponsor, of course, Ocean R. Thank you, Tom, for coming on board. If you haven't heard about Ocean R, right now they are doing some crowd fundraising as well. They have a commitment to a sustainable future. They're based on 3 pillars of people, product, and the planet. To date, they've almost saved the planet from 1.6 million plastic bottles by utilizing recycled polyester fabric within their uniforms. And they don't just do crew uniforms, they also actually do all sorts of hospitality, different uniforms. And I think a lot of the times people tend to forget that in the world of fast fashion that we live in right now, it has a huge impact on the environment, whether we're talking about the dyes that come out of factories from dyeing these clothes. We see people going out there, and every single season we have an entire fashion change. The damage that it is doing to our environment, and we're so concentrated on things like plastic bottles and plastic straws, and that's everything that you always hear about, but nobody's paying attention to what our uniforms, to what our daily clothes are doing, to what our desire to be, you know, the one walking down the Monaco Yacht Show wearing the latest Gucci or Dolce & Gabbana. That is always so important to us, but at what cost to our planet? And I say to Ocean R and many of the companies that come along and are trying to make a change and trying to educate us in our fashion choices, I say thank you. And of course, we're going to hear all about it tomorrow with quite a few amazing guests. So, Andrea, I'll leave you to take it away.
I was gonna say you're actually tipping them off of what they're gonna be learning tomorrow. So we are covering eco-friendly cleaning products for yachts, sustainable and eco-friendly clothing. Uniforms are such a big deal and a huge topic in the industry. And then lastly, we will wrap up with industry updates on marine sustainability. I'm sorry, we're starting the day with marine conservation organizations and beach cleanup. So how can you, especially when you're roaming around on your vessel and you're landing on Mallorca, Capri, wherever it is there a chapter that you can be involved with? How do you find them, identify them? How can you be involved? So a great list for tomorrow, 4 sessions. Don't forget to tune in. The links for the sessions will change for the day too. Just follow along on any of the social media platforms. You will see the next live day pop up. So have a wonderful day and we'll see you then.